Hello and welcome everybody to another episode of Pod Strickland. I'm your host, Shwin, and this is episode 331. I'm joined, as always, by my co-host Stacy. That is at StacyPan89 on Twitter. Stacy, how are you doing after our week off?
Doing well. Excited to see the Liberty win on Friday, and I will be monitoring that game and watching it as we get to this pod. So
Yes, it was good to see that win on Friday, and hopefully they emerge victorious tonight. Also, we are joined by somebody that is not a stranger to anybody. His name is Jeffrey Rasmussen. You can follow him at FrankBarrett119 on Twitter. He's also now a co-host of the Strictly NFL show. Geoff, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. We just got done recording Strictly NFL, but I'm locked and loaded and ready to talk NBA. Honestly, I was talking to my friend earlier today, and he was he's a Browns fan, so he's a little biased, but he was just like, can fucking NBA just start already? And I've never felt that way I love football, I love red zone, but I'm kind of inching more and more in that direction each year. I do this with Strickland each year. The Knicks are so far and away my number one right now that even as great as Sunday red zone football just is, I don't know. Basketball is just.
Do you have an NFL team that you support or?
Yeah, I'm a Broncos fan.
Oh, I never knew that. Why? Actually, I'm curious.
So my dad is all New York, Jets, Rangers, Yankees,
Knicks.
And I just decided I didn't want to be a Jets fan when I was 6, and he would call, I guess when I was 5 or 6, I could throw the football pretty well for a 5 or 6-year-old, and he would call me Little Elway, and so I just hopped on the Broncos bandwagon, got a couple of Super Bowls, and it's been mostly misery ever since, except for a nice little Peyton.
Yeah, Russell Wilson. Let Russ cook. No,
I don't know. I mean, yesterday's game just didn't have to end like that, but
you did beat the Jets in one of those AFC Championship games.
Yes. 1998. We had the Leon, whatever the fuck that guy's name is. Some Jets. The Jets were up 10-0 at halftime, and then they fumbled the kick return, and that started that's how the Broncos won. So Broncos fan, it sucks. Not as nice as being an Eagles or a Bills fan. Let's talk about the better sport.
Well, I think for me, I'm very happy with football season. I don't know if Shwin.
I don't know, man. Judging on your tweets, you don't seem too fucking happy anytime.
I'm never happy. I'm never happy. That's why. No, I am actually, I'll throw this to you, Shwin. Of your teams, of your 3 teams, they're all very good and contenders. I assume you're still a Michigan football fan, Buffalo, and the Knicks. Which one do you think has the best chance of bringing home some hardware?
Buffalo, definitely. I'm not going to believe we can beat an SEC team until I don't believe in Michigan winning a fucking playoff game until they actually win a playoff game. Harbaugh teams in general seem to suck coming off extended breaks. This dates back to his time in the NFL, where, as we all remember, his 49ers team basically pissed and shit on themselves for the first 35 minutes of the game. Probably the first 35 minutes of the game, and then finally they got their shit together and nearly pulled it off. But this is a recurring trend with him that his teams coming off extended breaks are not good.
Is he the Tibbs of college football?
No, he's much better than Tibbs in his respective sport. But we're not here to talk about that. We are here to talk about the Knicks. But before we do talk about that, I have to make a few announcements. The first being that the Strickland has a Patreon. Check that out. You can subscribe to it. There are a number of different tiers. $6 tier that gets you access to Pod Strickland, this podcast that I host every Friday with the Prez. You also get access to the Strickland Discord. The conversation never stops. You also get access to the Strickland Mailbag, hosted by Andrew Steele, a.k.a. Doug, a.k.a. the Doug Bag, alongside Dallas Amico. There are further tiers. There's a $9 tier that gets you access to Strickland on my solo pod where I rant and rave about the Knicks even more. You also get access to wonderful premium articles by Matthew Miranda, one of the best in the business. And now you also get access to our wonderful NFL pod, Strictly NFL, that is hosted by our very own Jeffrey Rasmussen here, and also Constantine So give them a follow, check it out. And then there are further tiers. There's a $15 tier, $30 tier, $50 tier, and $100 tier. This comes with a variety of additional benefits like listening in on pod recordings, merchandise discounts, and even potentially co-hosting a podcast alongside yours truly one day, whether you choose to subscribe or not. None of this would be possible without you. And none of this would be possible without Bet Online. Football's back, and Bet Online is your number one information source for all your sports wagering info with all the up-to-the-minute stats, news, scores, and matchup breakdowns. Get the latest game odds, spreads, and totals from the NFL and college football at your fingertips with Bet Online's real-time updates on statistics, news, and odds. From week 1 all the way to the college football playoff and Super Bowl, Bet Online gives you access to the best football promotions and contests available anywhere online. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to get in on the action. Remember to use our promo code BELIEVE, BLEAV, to receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Bet Online, where the game starts. And also, if you want merchandise, we have it. I'm wearing some of it. Geoff is wearing some of it. Stacy is not, but I'm sure he has some. You can find that on our website. That is www.thestrick.land. There's a link there that'll take you to the store, and you can get sweatshirts, t-shirts, hats, coffee mugs, even water bottles. You name it, we've got it. Again, check that out. That is on our website. And give us a follow on Instagram if you're not doing this already. And give us a follow on YouTube if you're watching this and you've not already done so. That would be a huge help to us. All right. Now that we've got that all the way, we are here to do NBA over-unders. BetOnline, our great, wonderful, amazing sponsor, the greatest sponsor of all time, has it listed all in alphabetical order. So that's how we're going to do it. And I just want people to know this. We can just get this one out of the way. Portland is not on the board for obvious reasons because we have to see what happens to one Damian Lillard. Will he get traded? Where does he get traded? What do they get back? They're going to suck a lot. That's the one thing I can say for sure. They're going to be a terrible basketball team. They're going to be running a shit ton of offense through Shaedon Sharpe, who was not a good NBA player last year, which is fine because he's a rookie, and Scoot Henderson, who probably won't be a good NBA player next season because he's a rookie. Yeah, and Simons, who
is a good NBA player on offense.
Yeah, how you're going to play defense with those three guys, I don't know. Thankfully, I'm not Chauncey Billups and have to figure that out. But yeah, I don't even know why anyone. Me and Geoff were actually talking about this very briefly before we logged on here. But if you want to enjoy the NBA season, I would not be invested in anything related to the Blazers, unless you're a Blazers fan, which is fine. But if you're I want to bet on something, do not bet the Blazers over under. One of the worst things you can do is betting some garbage teams over under and then having to root for them to get win 19 in early April. And you're man, if they can just get 3 more, I can cover here.
You say that as someone who was betting Knicks over 22.5 5 years ago.
I will not either conform nor deny that, especially since I was illegal back then, Geoff, and I would never do anything illegal.
He wasn't smiling in the fourth quarter down 38 like Fizdale, but
I know I was definitely not. I actually pretty sure when I saw him do that, I was extremely infuriated. But yeah, I don't know. I don't really have strong thoughts on this team. Honestly, I just looking through the totals, the lowest total I think was, I want to say Washington at 24.5. Let me just double check that. Yeah, 24.5. Washington is the lowest total. I think the Blazers would open below that whenever this deal happens, because I don't think they're going to get back anything good. That's fine. I don't think they want anything good. I think they just want draft capital and they want to get off contracts, and I expect them to be very, very happy.
Well, everybody needs a hero.
It's true.
Do you think they want a hero?
I don't think they do, because I think if they did, this deal would have been done by now.
What about the Ayton rumors? I think that's the most interesting thing about this team right now.
Well, so if you think the Ayton rumors are real, then you should be calling your book and being hey, what if you were to just draw me up a line right now? What would you give me a number at? Maybe they give you something nice, because if you get Ayton, who I don't think any of us are necessarily huge fans of, you'd have to think he'd help you win more ball games than fucking Nurkic did last year, or will presumably ever again. Yeah, I don't know. I honestly think they would open lower than 24.5. And even if the number was at 21 or 22, I would not touch it. I would not be interested in touching this line. If I were to bet it, I would bet the under. And if people are not familiar, the worst human beings in the world are people that like bet unders and vocally root for them in public. The worst, just like betting a football unders and then rooting for that is so depressing. You think of that, like, no, I don't want points. Hate
Maybe you
points.
just don't appreciate defense, Shwin.
Yeah,
maybe,
that's what
maybe
it
one of
is.
these newfangled millennials who don't appreciate real football.
Yeah, he's probably one of those idiots who doesn't appreciate 90s basketball, you know, like he
just don't appreciate what it was like back then. But yeah, I don't know. I don't really have anything else to say about this, but I guess before we start the actual over-unders here, do you guys have any thoughts about this Julius Randle stuff? Because I don't.
No,
like.
God.
Yeah, I think my only thought is him leaving his agency after being with them for 9 years and reuniting with somebody who he apparently had a close working relationship with at a different agency. I'm not here for the conspiratorial like shit. And honestly,
it says he had the Instagram post. We should get that up. He had the Instagram post that said, "I'll bet on myself" or whatever. But his agent was at CAA and left. That just seems to be more of a personal relationship thing, which is, but if you think the Instagram post is related, I'll let you talk to that. But
I mean, this is when you would change an agent if you're thinking about it. Like, he's a year away from being extension eligible, right? He would only have a year left guaranteed on his contract. He does have a player option for the 2025-2026 season, but he'd only have a year guarantee left in his contract if he wants to opt out after that, then yeah, like this is the time for him to get a new agent. This is the time for him to explore all that stuff. I don't do I think that he's doing this for his own personal benefit? Yeah, fucking obviously. Like, it's his agent. He should be doing this for his own personal benefit. Do I think this means that like his relationship with the organization and management is bad? No, I think that's ridiculous. Honestly, I think it's insane to suggest that, given like seemed really happy this offseason, more so than usual. And like even now, I think he's at the Liberty game tonight.
So now you're interested in if Julius is happy. When he's smiling, that's what matters, right?
Yeah, that's very, very important.
No,
I don't know. I to me, this is just not that. It's not. It like it can't be. Oh well, it's bad. Oh, this must mean he's unhappy with the team and he's doing something to protect himself. When all like the last 3 years, all we've heard is that Leon Rose just takes care of his CAA guys. Okay, well, if that's the case, why the fuck would he change agents? How would he change agencies? Like,
I mean, they're just playing both sides so they can come out on top either way. Just like, that's what they're doing.
Stacy, one day we're gonna just have to track your random quotes and memes, just see how many an episode.
Well, I actually at some point on this, when all three of us on a pod, I gotta get some movie opinions from both of you because I think you guys have watched way more shit than I have. So definitely interested in those. But yeah, sorry, Shwin, I interrupted. But my point is like there isn't a lot of logic. I'm agreeing with what you were saying. There's a lot of logic.
Yeah,
to what those folks are saying.
It's just not interesting to me, and I feel like look, man, a player changing agencies, getting this much attention from like Knicks media and national media is like, if Joe Cronin is listening to this live stream for some reason, please trade Damian Lillard. Please, for the love of God, trade Damian Lillard today so that we have anything else to talk about. Because I've never seen NBA media this fucking bored. They are so bored. Every NBA podcast topic I've seen is like some fucking list or like shit like this where it's like, oh, like, what does this say about the Knicks' internal culture? And like, I don't know. Like, it changes.
Well, it's all over too. And it's like, is there something specific about this offseason? We had FIBA. We had a really good US Open. Baseball's been good. WNBA's had more interest. Why? Like, it seems to me this offseason has had way more like, oh my God, just get me the season here. And that's because Knicks Twitter kind of sucks as well. But I think that's an NBA Twitter wide thing. Why do you think that is? Like, or have we just not noticed it as much in the last couple of years? Because Twitter's been around for a while. Soon we're going to have to pay for it. And that might honestly be Elon's gift to all of us. But because I don't think most of us will pay for it. But, why are these kind of topics this year so prevalent when it's not like a shitty sports summer at all?
I think we just have a bias. And this has just been an incredibly uninteresting Knicks summer, specifically for the Knicks. Like there's been not even the smallest of rumblings. Like we know, aside from DiVincenzo, we knew the core was coming back. There was no variations of trades, no Donovan Mitchell. Like literally, there's been nothing for Knicks fans to care about. So, I just think that sort of extrapolates the nonsensical part of every offseason to us because by nature or just naturally, a higher percentage of what Knicks fans see aligned with their team is nonsense because there's nothing of actual substance to talk about. I will say that I do think that this news slightly reduces the chance that the Knicks sign Julius Randle to an extension that I deem unfriendly. I think this is good for the Knicks. I don't know. I mean, if Julius is going to try to get his bag, look, maybe the Knicks will do the Tristan Thompson thing and be like, well, it's either him or nothing, so we might as well overpay him. Maybe. But everything we know about this front office is that they're incredibly analytically sound. And I don't know. Speaking as someone who would be very, very disgruntled with like Julius Randle making a max, I feel a little bit more confident today that that's not going to happen.
Yeah, like I think so. I agree if people's take is like he wants representation he trusts because he thinks there's a chance he gets moved next summer or the Knicks are going to make a big move next summer and he wants to make sure that he has somebody he trusts involved in like, talking to the franchise or whatever. I believe that. And I believe there's every chance that Julius Randle would get traded and not extended. And if he does extend, like you said, that it would be a real negotiation. Like they're not just going to be like, oh, well, you've been so great for us. Like we're going to just give you all the money. Like I think it'd be, yeah, like I agree with all of that. I just think it's like, to answer your question about boredom, I mean, I think this is something to mention. This is a good point as far as for Knicks fans specifically. Hawkeye 420, he says, it's a shitty sports summer for NY fans if they are NY baseball fans like me, which is a good point. It's probably a fair point that the Mets and Yankees sucking does not take away. You're like, well, now I need a distraction from this. What are the Knicks doing? But I also just think honestly, I think so much of fandom has just become about transactions. That's all people care about. Like, it's just become transactions, and that's all people want to talk about. And it's like I remember last summer after we didn't trade for Donovan Mitchell, already people were like, well, who's the next guy? Can we get SGA? Could he be traded? What about OG Anunoby? What about this? And it's like, I get that. And I'm not acting like I don't do that also. But like, I mean, to me, that's just like, it gets kind of, it's become too much. And that's all the entire focus is. And like, that's kind of why I feel so much of the content has been shitty this summer, because people are like, well, when is the Damian Lillard trade going to happen? When's it going to happen? It's like, do you really need this fucking trade to happen so you can talk about basketball? Like, there's nothing else you can talk about other than trades and, contracts and all this type of stuff. So, yeah, I don't know. It also probably doesn't help when like every summer NBA insiders like, this is going to be the most insane summer ever. Every trade ever is going to happen. Is worth noting, Geoff, to your point about Randle, and maybe he won't get an extension with the organization. Woj did say today that teams are like hesitant to throw their hat in the ring for Damian Lillard because they think next summer there are going to be mega stars in the market. And obviously we don't need we all know who he's talking about. There's two names that the Knicks have been connected with that I'm sure many teams would be interested in, which are Joel Embiid and Giannis Antetokounmpo. So yeah, I think that like it's not nothing. I just, when it becomes this thing of like, well, does this mean like he has beef with the organization and is he going to get traded right now? Like, I don't think this changes anything for them this season. Honestly, like I don't think it changes much.
He probably wants to, for a big deal, just like get a different.
Who else is signed with WME is
conflict of interest.
Did I die?
Yeah, you're kind of in the matrix there for a bit, Shwin.
Okay. Yeah, I all I was just saying is like I just don't think it necessarily changes. I mean, like WME is a pretty big agency in their own right, and RJ Barrett is signed to WME, so like it's not like this closes the door for any chance that he could stay with the team. But yeah, I'm sure it plays into his mind, and I'm sure like look, none of us are stupid. We know that like this was always a possibility, right? Not just trading Randall, but trading a lot of these guys. We've talked about this a lot, and it looks like none of this kind of superstars the Knicks covet are will be available this summer, but they could be next summer. And so, yeah, I'm sure Julius isn't an idiot either, right? So,
I mean, how
we'll see.
often can you think of an agent switch like this being really impactful in terms of where the player went? Like, I think it's just like, yeah, Leon Rose has CAA ties. This is Randall's. Let's be real, probably Randall's last big deal. And even if he likes CAA, probably, but it's also his guy went to. So to the fact that he had personal ties to CAA, his guy went to WME, and so that's one thing. And it's also like on top of that, it's like, well, do I need loyalty to CAA? Even if he has a good relationship with Leon Rose, if you're trying to get paid, you can say let's differentiate that. Even if it's like that doesn't have to be a combative thing. I think that's where a lot of the and a lot of the conspiracy theory stuff and just the crazy stuff that I've been reading today is just coming from nowhere. Like, yeah, he's getting different representation. Doesn't seem to be combative with Leon Rose. Doesn't seem to be that kind of a thing. It was someone he had a relationship with before. I think that Instagram post added a little bit more fuel to the fire, but I mean that's just a normal thing anyone could post, though, right? Like I'm gonna bet on myself against the odds. So I don't know. I think it's something that's been being blown up because, like we said, if you're a Yankees and Mets fan, there's not a whole lot going on. If you're a Jets fan, not a whole lot going on. I think you should be, as much as I hate the Giants, you should be higher on the Giants. And if you're a fan of all the bad teams there, you should be watching the Liberty because they're fun as hell. But the last thing you should probably be talking about is who Julius Randle's agent is, because it's very much
the thing that never gets talked about in like a situation like this is that like Randle, so much of what happens in this year is going to determine what happens to Randle. Like that is what's going to and so people are going to look back and be like, oh, see, like I told you him changing representation matters. Like, no, like maybe he just had another all NBA season, or maybe he went the other way, like those things are going to determine what happens to Julius Randle far more than a change in agency, because
if he's awesome, if he's awesome, they're not going to be like, oh, well, he's not CA anymore. We can't bring him back now.
Exactly. Like they're going to make Julius Randle wants to be in New York, and the Knicks clearly want Julius Randle to succeed in New York. They've done everything they can to keep him around. And if he has like a third All-Star season, makes another All-NBA team, he's going to get a lot of money. Like he just is, and it doesn't matter who he's represented by. So yeah, I mean, I think what Stacy said is exactly right. Like this is just people are talking about stuff because they need something to talk about.
Yeah. Like I tend to feel that nothing is set in stone with anything with this team, or I mean, this is how most teams are in the NBA and in sports in general. So like, I don't know. I don't really feel the need to be worried about this or think about it that much. Like, my only real thing is like, I just get really annoyed at the endless like shifting of what what it means for CA to be represented by CAA for the next, like previously it was a great thing to be represented by CAA because all Leon Rose wants to do apparently is like hire CAA people and pay CAA people, and that's it. It's like a big money laundering scheme. Ha ha ha, like CAA money laundering. And now it's, oh my God, it's actually terrible to be represented by CAA because you're going against the organization or something. And it's like, dude, like, do you think Leon Rose, either you think Leon Rose took his job to get everybody at CAA paid, or you think he took, like, you can't go from that to being like, well, no, actually, it's bad to be represented by CAA because they won't negotiate with you in good faith and they'll make you take discounts. Like, dude, let me tell you something. This organization has bent over backwards in ways that I doubt any other organization would have for Julius Randle. I'm not gonna debate the merits of that, but that's a fact. That is a fucking fact. And if now you want to pretend that like they're nefariously negotiating with Julius, and also like what organization, like, oh, they're looking out for themselves and he's got to get, oh, let me let you in on a little secret. Every fucking team in the NBA, every sports team that ever exists, every corporation, every company cares about itself more than its employees. They might care about their employees. They might even take care of their employees, but they care about themselves and the success of their business in the short and long term more than any individual. That is not unique to the Knicks. That is not unique to Leon Rose and Worldwide West and Brock Aller. Absolutely not. And you know how I know that? Because NBA Media spends every offseason jerking off Danny Ainge and jerking off Pat Riley and jerking off Masai Ujiri, all for how ruthless. Oh, they're so ruthless. Oh my God, it turns me on how ruthless these guys are. Fuck you. Shut up. And enough with this fucking stupid ass fucking Julius Randle conversation. Let's move on to win totals.
I think Pat Riley would be viewed as less ruthless if he was Adrian Brody. So.
Sure. All right. The only Knicks offseason storyline of any concern moving right now is if and when Emmanuel quickly gets extended. That's it. Nothing else matters. All this other shit is boring and nonsense. All right. Let's start with the Atlanta Hawks. All this is from our wonderful, wonderful sponsor, BetOnline. This is the Atlanta Hawks. Their win total is set at 42.5. The juice is even on this on both ends, so it's minus 115 over and under. Geoff, what do you think?
I'm gonna go over, and I feel pretty good about this. I think they got the sort of year of complacency. You know, the warts. Murray and Trae Young can't be worse than they were last year together. I would hope. Like DeJounte Murray is saying the right things. He's saying like he's only ever he wants to make it work in Atlanta. He's determined to, you know, like that was the only place he wanted to extend. Or obviously he can't extend anywhere else, but you know what I mean. That's the only place he wanted to be. I do like the fact that a couple of young guys on their team, Jalen Johnson and AJ Griffin, they kind of cleared up space for them. Like some of the most exciting Hawks minutes last year to me came when it was Okongwu, Jalen Johnson, AJ Griffin. You know, those guys were seeing more minutes. And look, people forget that they took Boston to 6 games. Like, you know, I'm not saying that trumps a relatively poor regular season, but those guys didn't shy away from that moment against a really good Boston team. I think Trae is probably due for some positive regression in a number of areas. You know, he's always liable to finally figure out that, hey, maybe if I just took the 35 footers out of my shot diet, I would be, you know, a 60% plus true shooting percentage guy and 40% plus from 3. 42.5 feels too low for them, for their talent, and I feel pretty comfortable going over there.
I actually agree with you. So it's weird. I don't really think they're like smartly managed. But I agree with you. I like that, whether by necessity because they didn't want to have to pay all this money to John Collins anymore, or whatever the reasoning, I like that they cleared up minutes for Jalen Johnson. I think if they want to reach a higher level, those are the type of moves and bets they need to make on their own talent, because they're kind of hamstrung in the trade market after making the DeJounte trade. I think the center thing is weird. That's something that needs to resolve itself at some point. Like they have a decision to make on Okongwu after this year financially. They're kind of in the same boat as we were with Obi in terms of, yeah, you might love him, but if you don't play him or you can't start him, what's his path? What are you going to pay him? How committed are you? So like, I like some of those things, and I still have question marks. I agree with you. I don't think they can be worse. I also think you get Quinn Snyder a full offseason with them. He has training camp, all that stuff. I think that has value. We'll see like how much. I thought it was kind of interesting. AJ Griffin actually got his minutes cut as the year went on. He didn't play that much towards the end of the season, so that's something to keep your eye on because he is a player that I know a lot of. I mean, I like him. I think Stacy, you liked him pre-draft. I think he's like an exciting talent. He's a hell of a shooter, but like I was interested in that because I thought he would be a player that Quinn Snyder would definitely like, and maybe he could still like him. Maybe he thought it was better for his development to cut his minutes or something. But I think that's something to keep the eye on. But like, I probably wouldn't touch this, although I tend to agree with your logic, Geoff, where it's like last year felt like a disaster in a lot of ways, and they still ended up winning 41 games or something. Like they're probably due for positive regression, as you put it.
Yeah, I would. I'd probably. I'm not too high on them. I think the Pacers got better. I don't know if they'll necessarily finish as high. But 42.5 wins in an East that overall didn't get better. The top end, there's probably a couple of wins. Like I think Philly's going to give people some wins. Brooklyn's going to give some wins to people that didn't get it last year. When they were healthy. I would take the over. I'm also less optimistic than I think Geoff is long term. It's weird because I think I'm higher on Trae Young than Geoff is. Because I do think like at some point with him and Luka, I think with both of them, I think somebody's going to be the kid in the ass, and they are going to learn to play a little bit better off ball. I don't think it's beyond their reach at all. I think both are capable of being movement shooters. And in Trae's case, I think that he's very much capable of that. I don't love that backcourt pairing though, because even if Trae becomes a great off-ball player, you have DeJounte on ball and Trae off ball. That's worse to me than Trae on ball. Period. Unless DeJounte turns into like De'Aaron Fox or something, which good luck. So I'm not really very high on this team long term or how it's constructed. They have some interesting young players, but I actually disagree on the Obi Toppin and Okongwu comparison. I think Okongwu has shown a lot more about fitting into an actual role. Obi is an exciting transition player who should score a lot of points. He should score a lot of points in Indiana. Hasn't shown what position he can defend. Okongwu can defend two positions and fill a role in offense. He is probably going to be a 70+% free throw shooter. He's not going to be Bam, but he's going to be a pretty he has a very tangible path to being a plus starter. I don't see that with Obi yet, so I think he's actually a lot higher than that. But they have no way to give him that. So I would bet the over.
I think that was more Shwin's point though, Stacy.
Yeah,
I think the Obi comparison was more. We have this guy who don't really know what his ceiling is, and there's no path to finding out.
Also, I'm just going to say, I think Okongwu's become a little bit.
I think we know what Obi's ceiling is. That's my point. I think we don't know what Okongwu could be a really good starting center. I don't see that for Obi.
Wait, how do we know what Obi's ceiling is?
Because he can't. What position does he defend? He's a below average.
We haven't seen him get a shot.
We have.
Yes, and he played really well when he got a shot. So I don't really.
He scored a lot of points. What is he on defense?
Much better in his minutes.
He played well on his minutes next to the guy who plays well in his minutes with everybody. Everybody is plus 55 points next to Emmanuel Quickly. So no, I'm not.
But I don't want to do this whole Obi thing, but I think it's kind of insane to suggest that we know what Obi Toppin's ceiling is when he has played for the coach who probably worst suits his entire fucking MO coming out of college.
Fair. But I think that even that MO, just the transition energy forward who can shoot league average from three, we've seen that, right? John Collins is a really good version of that player. Do you think there's some untapped defensive potential in Obi? I'd be very interested in that. Do you think there's some point forward potential? I'd be very interested in that. But just
I think he's a lot better transition guy. Than we saw.
What?
I think he's a much better passer than John Collins ever was. I think he adds to offensive flow in a way that John Collins never did. And I think the value of those things is not easily captured by box score contributions.
No.
But can be unlocked in a different team. I don't think it was ever going to happen for him in New York. And I'm not
But if he's not a point forward, how much does that extra passing difference matter? Because I think John Collins is a better shooter than him until proven otherwise.
Yeah, but he's a pure play finisher. Like, he doesn't. John Collins is never going to add to like what your offensive flow and ecosystem looks like. Obi Toppin, we never saw it. For like, the guy came out of fucking college. He was like, everybody was talking about his passing ability. He'd use him in the short roll. That's a thing. We saw glimpses of it when like he would get those opportunities, but we never actually saw it. And I'm not saying it's a slam dunk. I'm just pushing back on the idea that like, look, what the fuck has Okongwu done? Honestly, man, what has he done? Has he done? Did I miss the month of a season that Onyeka Okongwu was dominating the NBA or something?
I think I just value defense from bigs a lot more than the kind of offense that Obi gives. But
he's a center, so him like, okay, you're good on defense. Do you want a medal? Like, that's your fucking job.
Yeah, I think defense is important for force too.
It is, but there is a vast difference. There's a difference between we can get away with Julius Randle not caring about defense for an entire season because we have good defensive centers.
Yeah, if I thought Obi could be Julius Randle, I would be comfortable with that. I think that's a very unique comparison, and I also think like I don't know who Obi guards. Like I think Obi is a worse defender than Julius. He tries harder, but I mean, I don't want to belabor this.
He's been a better defender though.
In terms of on-off, because he plays a lot of his minutes with, as you have mentioned a lot, Geoff, the highest impact defender on the Knicks. So yeah, I'm not going to give him credit for that. I'm not one of the people. There's a lot of people who are like, Obi's a shitty defensive rebounder. He leaks out just to cherry pick. I think he's actually very smart about that. I think he tries hard. I think he has high hips, and I think he can be an average defender. A potentially very effective defender in Okongwu, who has a little bit more than just the finishing game, right? He's not Mitchell Robinson on offense. And he can do those things too. I think that's way more valuable. And I think that he's also being blocked by. I mean, Obi is being blocked by an All-Pro. I think they're both being blocked by good players, but I think that Obi had the chance when Randle was just awful to actually break through, and he played well in terms of counting stats. And he had a good on-off too, but I would attribute that more to the fact that he played with players with good on-off. So
all right, we're gonna have to move on from this because I might have an aneurysm if I have to hear about how Obi got a chance. We're spending way too much time on the fucking Hawks. So we will agree to disagree on Obi Toppin and Onyeka Okongwu, but we will all agree Hawks over 42.5. If you're gonna bet, that is probably the play. All right, Celtics, team 2. 54.5 wins. The juice is even on both sides here too. So -115 on both sides of this bet.
Fuck Boston. Sorry. Reflex. Geoff, I'll let you go first.
Jeez. I'm gonna take the under, but like I don't love it because they're the Celtics. I just think they have stuff to figure out that might take them a little bit longer. Like I think this isn't commentary on their title chances or just their long-term trajectory. I think that, so first of all, Shwin, I want to give you a little bit of a shout out here. I thought one of your best offseason pods came with Prez when you guys talked about the smart Porzingis trade. And you talked a lot about, like, Prez was like, well, something that adding Porzingis does is it opens up space for them. And you were like, dude, they shot like 40% from three as a team last year. Like, how much more space do they need? Like, at a certain point, there's something called diminishing returns. And so, like, I do agree that I very much agree with the point you were making there that, like, Porzingis is in a vacuum an extremely positive force in that he's a stretch center and a very good three-point shooter himself. How much of a benefit to an already really good three-point shooting team is that going to bring? It could be more diminishing than people are giving credit for. On the other end of the court, they love to switch. That's what they do more than any team in the league. Can't do that anymore with Porzingis. That's going to hurt them early on. They're going to have to figure out, like, the Knicks fans will understand this. The Knicks almost play two different styles of defense, whether Jalen Brunson is on the court or isn't on the court. Like, if Jalen Brunson's on the court, Tibbs is all over Grimes and RJ to fight over every screen so that they don't have to switch, because his worst nightmare is Jalen Brunson being switched on to somebody he doesn't want. But when Jalen Brunson's off the court, he kind of lets RJ Grimes, quickly Deuce, whoever else, Josh Hart, he lets them switch interchangeably. So the Knicks, their defense wasn't great last year, but they have kind of gotten down to figuring out when they're going to switch and when they're going to fight over screens. The Celtics have to now figure that out because their natural baseline is to be very switch heavy. And with Kristaps on the court, I don't see them doing that. I think they're going to play a lot of drop, and that's going to be, I think that's going to take them a minute. I could see them being one of those teams that wins, 48 to 52 games, peaking at the right time and being freaking a monster in the playoffs, like being just one of those teams you don't want to play in the playoffs. But I'm cautiously on the under here.
The Brogdon thing is something to consider also. Brogdon is maybe reportedly unhappy with them because he was effectively traded, but then that deal didn't go through, so he's back in Boston. I think there's a chance the vibes are not great. Like, I will forever despise Marcus Smart, but I also think, especially now that he's gone from Boston, I think that it's fair to say that he did mean something to that locker room. I think he helped lead them, and I think he helped keep them together at various points in their time together. I'm not trying to say he was the fucking end all be all the team, but I do think he was an important character in that locker room. And Kristaps is way more talented than he'll ever be. Kristaps is not leading shit. Okay. He's not a leader in the locker room. And I'm not even saying that as an insult. That's just like some guys are not leaders in the locker room. And that's why having leaders is valuable because not everybody can do it. And if all of a sudden the plan is Jason Tatum is going to be this fucking leader of men in the locker room, I don't know. I think that's a risk. I'm not saying it doesn't necessarily derail the season, but talking about 54.5 wins, the margins are fine here. Any adjustment period hurts them. Obviously, we saw them a couple years ago, basically suck for half the season. They were a very middling team and then figured it out and went to the NBA Finals, right? And maybe they should have won the NBA Finals. But thankfully they didn't. It's another reason why everybody should love Steph Curry. And
hate HBO.
Yeah. Yeah, we do hate HBO. Can't believe it ended on that. That's so ridiculous. And I think the under is the play here. Especially, you didn't even mention this, but the injury risk of this team is real, way more real than it's been in the past. Say what you want about Smart and Grant Williams. Those guys played games. They're durable. Porzingis had a relatively healthy season last year, and I think he still missed 17 games. So, he's an injury risk. Malcolm Brogdon's an injury risk. And you got to remember, they got very lucky last year with Brogdon in the sense of he did not miss, any time in the regular season. He was very healthy. That's not usual for him, or that's not generally true for him. So, he's injury risk. Robert Williams always misses a bunch of games. And Al Horford is 700,000 years old. Okay, he's like a fossil. This guy was won a national championship in college back in 2006. Fuck Al Horford. But they're just. I just think there's a lot of variability. And the other part is what if Mazzulla sucks? It's possible Mazzulla could suck. There was enough criticism of him last year. I don't think he sucks. I think he was put in a really bad position, and it's very, very hard to expect him to do too much better than he did, to be honest. But it's possible that they didn't seem there were so many quotes from all their players last year of they were just every time anybody would ask them about Udoka, they were so fawning and praise over him. And you're a year removed now from that kind of organizational infrastructure that existed. They had some stability. I know Stevens is still there in basketball operations, but I think the under is the play here. I almost completely agree with you, Geoff, in terms of I could see this team kind of finding its way, and finally at the end of the season they're peaking at the right time, and maybe they're a monster. But I also think they're a team that could low-key have a disastrous season too. I don't think that's completely off the board given the injury risk more than anything else.
Yeah, I think disaster is strong. I don't think any team with Jason Tatum at this point is going to have a disaster season.
What if teams make him dribble though?
I think he's a good ball handler, better than we're talking about Jason Tatum, not Jaylen Brown. I think there's a lot of uncertainty around key players' health, so I would go with the under on 53.5. They hit 57 last year, but I think that the East is going to be, as much as I don't think the East got better, I do think it's going to be a dogfight. I think that they got to play the Knicks 4 times. Philly got worse, but the Knicks got better, I think, and already won 3 out of 4 against the Celtics. 2 overtime games, but that's a tough matchup. I think Cleveland got better. I think they're gonna. It's just gonna be kind of a dogfight. I don't know if there's gonna be a 55 win team in the East at all, unless Milwaukee stays healthy the whole time, or KP stays healthy. And again, they have a lot of upside. This is a bet I would probably stay away from because there's just so much uncertainty. But if you put a gun to my head based on the injury history, I would probably take the under as well.
I have a question for you guys before we move on to the next team. So they have their big 3 of centers: Porzingis, Robert Williams, and Al Horford. They have 3 guards that I think will be in their rotation.
Pingus.
They've got Brogdon, Derek White, and Peyton Pritchard. Who is their third best wing? Is it Sam Hauser? Is it Sam Hauser?
It's Hauser. It's Hauser, or if you believe in that, who's the kid they drafted? Kobe something? I don't know. They drafted somebody in the second.
I would probably just call Derek White a wing at that point. But you're right. He's not. And I will say this: if you're a Knicks fan, that is the game we play. We called Quentin Grimes a wing. So if we can call Quentin Grimes a wing, shouldn't we be able to call Derek White a wing?
Well, first of all, I don't think that's apples to apples at all, because no team is playing Derek White with 2 smaller players. Derek White will play no true 3 minutes. Quentin Grimes.
That's because he plays next to the best, to 2 really good 3s, right? So they don't need that. They have that flexibility. But if he was on the Knicks, would they play him next to Quickly and Brunson ever? I don't think that's out of the question.
Okay, fair enough.
Well, he does drive the ball, so we know Tibbs would definitely find minutes.
Yeah.
Sorry, Geoff. I didn't mean to interrupt. All I'm saying is that's because of their team, right? I don't know that he's incapable of guarding someone like Tatum or someone like.
I don't think he can. He's not physical like that. He doesn't get into guys' bodies like that. I think you want him as a point of attack defender, and he's really good at that. He's a phenomenal point of attack defender. But I don't like Grimes. You watch the way that he was bodying up Jimmy Butler. I've never seen Derek White do that. Like that, he's not the guy they ever put on Butler. I think there's things that, and he doesn't. I mean, ultimately, I think when we're talking about a wing, we are talking a little bit about play style, and Derek White does not play basketball like a wing. He plays like a ball handling guard. And that's what it is. So yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I think this team is really thin, and it worries me. It's worrying because it's not just that it's thin, it's that they have a bunch of guys that have real injury risk. And it feels like they went from being super deep last year and having all this versatility, at least on the perimeter, to just being very much we have 7, maybe 8 guys if you want to include Pritchard, and that's our squad. I don't know. When I say disaster potential for the Celtics, I don't think they're going to miss the playoffs, but I do think certain injuries hit. We saw them a couple years ago, right? They snuck into the playoffs basically as a 500 team. It's not out of the question that if injuries hurt them in a very specific way, they could be, around the play-in spot. Is it likely? No, but it's more likely than I think them winning 60 games this regular season. So I'm good on the under here. This is not one I would necessarily bet, but I like betting this more than I initially thought I would. I'll say that. All right, next up is the stepchildren of New York, the Brooklyn Nets. Their number comes in at 37.5. And I just got to say, I think this is an easy, just fucking put your life savings on it. Ben Simmons has been saying very positive things about himself. So I think you can take it to the bank that he's going to be awesome again. And definitely somebody that you can depend on. No, I think this team is bad. I think it's a bad team. They were bad after the Durant trade. And I understand there was a lot of moving parts there. They don't have anybody I trust handling the ball in the half court. Dinwiddie is not good. I really don't. It was weird, how it worked for him for half a season in Dallas, but he's just not been. He was not good at all last year in Dallas or in Brooklyn. His play style like if you're going to do this Ben Simmons point forward thing, like I don't think he makes sense at all with him. So I'm not sure how that works out. I don't think their defense is even that great either. Like we saw, I mean, look, you can sit here and talk to me about Jalen Brunson's defensive deficiencies all day and point it out from FIBA. But like, you know who else didn't look like a particularly great defender in FIBA? Mikal Bridges. Great defender in a few years, Mikal Bridges. Like, I don't believe in this team's defense being anything elite. I think Claxton's a really good defender. I think Dorian Finney-Smith might be washed. Like, I don't even think that's like a bunch of a hot take. He looked really bad.
Is he late career
a
Wes
lot of
Matthews
time
at
last
this
year.
point?
No, because Wes was such a better shooter than him.
I mean,
Dorian
late
Finney-Smith
career,
is like late career. He's like late career Rashard Lewis, maybe.
Oh wow,
something like that. Rashard is a better shooter. I don't know. I'm just not bullish on this team for this season anyway. Maybe they have a trade up their sleeve or something, but like I would lean under here. I think the East around them is better. And what were they after the trade? I think they were like 10-13 or something like that. They were not good. I would, yeah, I feel pretty good about this.
This is tough. It's almost like
Good
Vegas
line.
doesn't. No, I think I'm going to go over. I kind of disagree with you about their team. Like, first of all, I can't believe I'm saying this. I really like the Dennis Smith Jr. acquisition. He's figured out how to play defense, which is like, it's so funny that he is now like the Frank who can play. Like he's really good at defense and can't shoot. And I think I'm just higher on like EPM loved Cam Johnson last season. Is he a top 30 player in the NBA? No, but is he a really good player on a team like the Nets or just in general? Yeah. Okay, maybe Finney-Smith is done. I'm not sure I agree he's done, but I mean, and I agree with you, you can't count on Ben Simmons, but you know, I still think Royce O'Neal's a nice role player. I think they're just kind of going to be a tough out every single night. I think they're going to be one of the best defenses in the league. I think Mikal Bridges is probably going to build on what he did last year. And just, I mean, he's a lock to be an all-star. If you could bet him to like be an all-star, I would bet on it. Just the Brooklyn combined with the stats he's going to put up on Brooklyn. He's going to the all-star.
What about the other forwards in the league, right? I mean, you have, is he going to get in over Randall, Giannis? Sorry, I mentioned Randall first. Yeah, shoot me for Knicks bias. But Bam is considered a forward, right? Like, I think now they don't really do centers.
Front court. It's just front court and back court, right? So
I would bet on Mikal making the all-star game over Randall. Yes.
Ooh, that's spicy. I think the Randall's going to get those counting stats.
Yeah, but
we both agree that's pretty sustainable, right?
I think people are kind of just sick of Randall. Like, no, I'm being serious. I think he's gotten to the point where they're like, okay, we've given you two now of your "we're voting for you" awards, and both times you stunk it up in the playoffs. We're gonna put you on ice here, and you got to prove it in the playoffs before we're sure this is real.
Yeah, I agree with you. I also think the fact that like NBA Twitter has such a massive boner for Mikal Bridges helps his cause.
I hate boner for Randall. I mean, we don't have to take, but I mean, Shwin, you've been very critical of Randall. 59th? Like, I mean, that was on Bleacher Report. Like below Wembanyama, who I think could be number one at one point, but it's like before he's played a game, like they had guys up over him or like.
I'm not sure what any of those rankings mean. Like, there's literally not. I guarantee if you gave truth serum to every single coach in the NBA and asked them if you have a game, you got to win a game tomorrow. You want Paolo Banchero or Julius Randle? They're going to pick Julius Randle. Like playoff struggles and all.
And they didn't qualify by saying it's the next 3 years or anything, right? They said right now. So Paolo, I think Julius will be better than Julius, but you know,
look, he's underrated. I think Mikal Bridges is overrated. We don't need to do the Mikal Bridges debate for the 7,000th time, but I would bet the under on this. Like, I don't love this team, and I just think I don't trust them at all. Their offense is bad. Like, it's going to be a bad offense. And
you don't believe in Cam Thomas?
God, That's like, talk about a guy who is like against everything I like as a basketball player. That's pretty much Cam Thomas.
Is he just glorified Alonso Trier?
A little bit. Yeah, I don't know. I'm going under here, Geoff. Did you end up? By the way, this is worth mentioning. This is the first one. The juice is not even. So minus 120 on the over, minus 110 on the under. So probably getting they're getting a little bit more action on the under anyway.
Yeah, I'm gonna go over. I don't feel great about it, but I'm on that over. Stacy?
Yeah, I'd probably go over too. That's a low number. I think they'll be good enough to. They're gonna play hard every night, and I'm comfortable going with the over there. But I think it's a tough one. Probably one I'd stay away from. So.
Yeah, I probably would not bet that, but I do like the under. All right, next one, Charlotte, a team that I'm sure everybody was just dying to wait to hear us talk about this. Charlotte Hornets, 31.5 is their win total. The juice here is pretty interesting. Minus 130 on the under, plus 100 on the over. I initially was thinking this is an over play. But one, seeing that juice is interesting. And then two, I've been thinking about this a lot. Like, again, this sounds so ridiculous. And I can't believe we're bringing him up again for the second time of this podcast. Losing Dennis Smith Jr. actually hurts them for real. Their defense was really good after the All-Star break. Like, I think they were the number one defense in the league after the All-Star break or something like that. And that's not to say that was all Dennis Smith Jr., but I do think it hurts losing him because they're probably going to replace a lot of his minutes with Brandon Miller, who I will venture to guess is going to be a bad defender in his first season in the NBA and probably just a bad player his first season in the NBA because, again, that's what young players do. He's going to play a lot of minutes. LaMelo Ball, I think, is getting underrated now because of his weird season last year. That said, him and Brandon Miller together is probably going to be a disaster defensively. If you are going to bet the over here because you like the juice, I think I really like Mark Williams. I think he had a really good rookie season. He closed it really strong. His defensive impact was real. He's just a gigantic person.
How much of the second half impact? How much of the second half defensive impact was him versus maybe Smith? In your opinion,
I think he helped a ton because their center rotation before that was like, I don't know, it was terrible. They were like, Kai Jones, hopefully he's getting whatever help he needs. And they've got, they had like all these centers that were just not like Nick Richards is it's a fun story. The guy has earned himself a nice contract in the NBA and stuff, but I think Mark Williams is going to start. Correct, and Tyrese Maxey. But I think Mark Williams is going to start, and I think he'll help them win. I think he'll help them defensively a lot because of that. But he's a second-year center, and he's going to be covering up for a lot of bad perimeter rotations and a lot of bad perimeter defensive effort. I'm going the under here. I just
I don't know
because
you've been high on them.
I
do you think are you not betting on Hayward's health? Are you betting against Hayward's health?
I think if anybody, you always bet against Hayward's health. I think he should be betting against his own health at this point. But yeah, no, I've just been thinking about this a lot, and I really feel like I think I am undervaluing how destructive Brandon Miller might be on defense, especially in consequence with LaMelo, and the fact that you're taking away a guy who was a really good defender for them last year in Dennis Smith Jr. and replacing him with somebody who probably, again, was going to be a terrible defender to start his career. Doesn't make me feel great. I'll go under here. I think that's probably the safe bet, but wouldn't surprise me if Steve Clifford has them playing really well after the All-Star break again and they make a run at this. I think it will be tight.
Yeah, it's one. I think if Hayward is healthy, and again, I think I would lean towards agreeing with you that I don't think that's something you can bet on necessarily, but there's a lot of variance here. I don't necessarily know that Miller is going to get all of those minutes because Clifford, like Tibbs, is a guy he's going to get them playing every night. They still have Rozier, right? So I think that Rozier is not Smith as a defender. He's a decent defender. I think LaMelo's due for a pretty big season. I mean, I think that he's been out. He was out last year. And we have to bring it up. they are adding a guy. Do I think he should be playing? Probably not. I don't think he should be playing. But they are adding Miles Bridges, who will add to their on both ends. That's a good player. He's a good basketball player. So I think that just looking at the line, I think they're going to be better than 31 wins. I don't know how much better, and it's the East is competitive, but I would take the over there. And I think you have some added upside with the fact that maybe Hayward outperforms or is healthy for a larger period of time than maybe the books are expecting.
Hopefully, Miles Bridges' comeback goes as well as Deshaun Watson's is so far.
I'm, with that in mind, going to go under. I just think there's too many good teams in the league in the East, and there just have to be some candidates to bottom out to hit February, March and be like, oh, we don't really have a chance. Okay, time to think about next season. And I could see the Hornets being one of those teams. And then also they have a ton of incentive not to tank, but to prioritize players who are going to matter in 3 years over a player who might give them the best chance of winning on that night. So Brandon Miller, Mark Williams, two guys that, I'm not saying you shouldn't be excited about, but I'm saying they're going to play through their warts. I agree with Stacy about LaMelo. I think he is due for a fuck you, like an all-star season, honestly. I think he's due to be an all-star conversation soon.
People are forgetting he was an all-star, by the way, a couple years ago. It's so insane to me that people are just getting this.
His pull-up game, his range and all of that. He does the Trae Young thing where he takes a bunch of irresponsible attempts, but he's actually more efficient at that. He's a high percentage three-point shooter on extremely difficult volume. He has the potential to be really elite there. I'm not going to use the S word, but beyond him, it's tough to do that. Dame's the only other guy. Trae Young has not made that really viable. Luka has not made that viable. LaMelo has been more efficient at that, and it's a big weapon. If he can, he can't finish right now, but he's a terrific, phenomenal passer. I think he's Trae Young level in terms of a playmaker, and maybe you disagree, Geoff, but in terms of pure passing, I like Trae Young's passing game, but he has the height too, so that's an advantage there. So I think Shwin, you have a point there. Sorry to interrupt, Geoff, but I definitely would. I double down on that.
Yeah, I'm a big time LaMelo believer. He is an injury risk that affects the season long win total, and also I think he's very clearly number one in the Hornets' priority. And I think if they get to March, late March, early April, 10 games left in the season, that looks lost. I don't think it's crazy to say they might just shut him down. So I like some of their pieces. How much
do you incorporate the fact that next year's draft is not supposed to be as good as this year's? There's no Wemby.
That's you still. Again, I'm not going to accuse anyone of tanking. You still value a higher pick over whatever the hell the Knicks were doing at the end of 2021, 2022. Look, we
almighty fourth seed.
The funny thing about that is people who wanted the Knicks to tank, the Knicks were just accidentally not tanking because other people besides the head coach realized that these young people deserve to play more. And then Tibbs was fine, I'll play them more. We'll see how it goes. And it's oh yeah, they just won every game they played. But I think
Tibbs was like that. He was like that meme where he's I'm not owned, you're owned.
I like some of the Hornets pieces, and I actually think Steve Clifford is an underrated coach. He's just kind of like a Tibbs light. And he'll have them playing hard. I could see them winning a couple games that they're just not supposed to win. But I don't know. I don't see them just getting to 35 wins. I either see LaMelo dragging them into the play-in conversation or them bottoming out again and trying again next year.
And one thing worth mentioning is they have new ownership. We know Michael Jordan famously never agreed to have them tank. I would suspect new ownership might be more
They don't have
willing
that dog
to-
in them.
Yeah, I think new ownership might be okay if they don't have that dog in them for at least a year anyway. All right, next team, Chicago. This is also interesting on the juice. The over, it's 37.5. The over is at -130. The under is +100. I think this is an easy over, to be honest. I don't even. What did they end up with last year? Like, were they 38 and 44? Something like that.
40 and 42.
Yeah. So like, and they were terrible to start the year. Levine looked awful to start the year. He finally looked like himself the back half of the season. I thought they figured some stuff out. I think Patrick Williams probably has a bump. Like, he's a fourth-year player. I can't imagine that he would get worse. Not to say he was terrible or anything last year, but I'm positively projecting he's better. They probably won't have to necessarily play Io DeCinma, which will help them. My nemesis, weirdest nemesis I have. But like, I like Javon Carter. I think he's like a good player. They got him. Do I love their team? No. Am I like worried about their offense? And do I think no, I don't think they're going to do anything serious. But you're trying to tell me they're not going to win 38 games? I find that hard to believe. And you want to talk about a team that doesn't tank? They're like the epitome of a team that doesn't tank. And they traded away their 2025. I think they still owe first, right? So not this year, but the next year. So I guess that doesn't matter. But like, look, they paid Vooch. DeRozan's still there. Levine's still there. Added Javon Carter. Like, I don't know. I think this team is probably going to end up around the same place. And look, if Patrick Williams takes a leap, who the hell knows? Like, maybe they're a lot better than this number. So I think this is an easy over. Honestly, I think this line is kind of ridiculous. To me, they're clearly better than Brooklyn. Like, very, very clearly better than Brooklyn. And so for them to have the same number as them is bananas.
I don't think it's. I think that I am down on them. DeRozan gave them 25, 5 and 5 on pretty good efficiency, and he's going to be 34 next year. You can say he has the kind of game that'll age well. But between him and Vooch, you're talking about two guys who are aging, who I don't know if you can necessarily rely on their availability. I definitely agree. I think Levine's a good point. But where is that improvement coming from? And if they're not improving, I think that there is. I probably would go over just based on the fact that, as Geoff said, they were 2 games above this pace last year. But I think there's a lot of risk of regression, particularly from Vooch and DeRozan. Caruso is a really great player. He's been an injury risk. Pat Williams has been an injury risk. I like the Javon Carter addition. Gun to my head, I'd probably go over, but I think there's a lot of downside here. And yeah, they don't try to tank, but it's not always in their control. So
yeah, I've got to be honest. I guess we all agree. I'm going over too. I don't see much downside. I guess like Levine getting hurt, but that's kind of to varying degrees, different levels of downside. DeRozan and Vucevic both seem like players who, even in their early to mid 30s, are going to age fine. Like, I don't see them just having this huge drop off next year. I think both will produce similar levels of output. Interesting thing, their most played lineup last season played almost 600 minutes. It was Ayo, Levine, DeRozan, Vucevic, and Patrick Williams. And it basically broke even from a net rating standpoint. If you replace Ayo with Caruso in that lineup, they were plus 15 per 100. If you replace Patrick Williams with Beverly in that lineup, so now you have Beverly and Caruso with Levine, DeRozan, and Vucevic, they were the first lineup I just said was plus 8 per 100. This second lineup with Beverly and Caruso was the one that was plus 15 per 100. So they relied a lot on Shwin's nemesis last season. He's all of a sudden their 11th man. Javon Carter's their backup point guard. They got Torrey Craig, who's like all of a sudden they're just randomly deep. And I'm not saying Torrey Craig's like some mind bending player, but
but he's the guy that can play.
and nobody said this name, and I'm a Carolina guy, so I'm biased here, but I love Kobe White. I think he's fallen.
I like him in his role.
Yes, he is a guy. He is a guy I like in his role. I don't think a lot of people know this, but his defense just took an enormous leap last season. One of the best screen navigators in the league. He's like, just if you had told me this when I was watching him at Carolina, as I saw us give up 175 points in the Sweet 16 to Auburn, I wouldn't have believed that this was possible. But he's just so good defensively now, and he can score at least 2 of 3 levels. I think he has a little mid-range flash that he hasn't showed. I don't think he's ever going to be like a primary initiator, but I mean, you go back and watch. It's so fucking annoying thing about this because like the Heat just don't even make the playoffs if the Bulls hold on to this game. The whole Bulls Heat game turned when Kobe White was pulled from that game. They were gonna win, and then Kobe White gets pulled, and he is turned into an ideal role player to be on the court. And honestly, I think the Bulls will be doing themselves a disservice if they don't try to run a ton of, small lineups with Kobe White, Caruso, and then their quote unquote big 3. Like, I like Patrick Williams a lot too, but I think Kobe White offers them, when Patrick Williams is having slow shooting nights, he offers them a chance to go smaller and change it up a little bit. Look, I'm never going to be high on a team who is built around DeMar DeRozan. Zach LaVine just won his minutes for the first time in his entire NBA career. That's an issue. And Vucevic, while he's gotten better with age, which is weird, is no defensive anchor. But 37.5 is too low. I could see them anywhere between, 38 and 44 even. And I think they're going to be an annoying team to play.
Yeah, I mean, they've also been like weirdly really good on defense the last couple of years, which I still feel is like some kind of weird thing where they're like certain teams they're just really, really good against and other teams that they suck against or something.
A lot of those so I think, but
yeah, it could be, but it doesn't even make sense. But yeah, I'm over on this. Geoff, you're over. Stacy, where are you at? You said under?
I said over, but I think there's more downside risk than
All right. Yeah, I do love Kobe White, and I actually think the way they've handled him has been a joke. All right, next team. Pretty pathetic team. Just a really awful season they had last year. Went out with a whimper in the playoffs. The Cleveland Cavaliers. 50.5 wins is their total, or 50.5 is the number. It's even. The juice is even on both ends, minus 115. I think this is like, I'm kind of shocked. I think this is pretty close to like a hammer for me. Like, just fucking lay on us. Like, they're going to be a regular season wins machine again. Like, they just do
57 win, I think, net rating last year. Right?
Yeah,
that was their
peak. Yeah. They finished 5 games under that, and like whatever. I think the Strus and Niang additions are being hyped up a little bit too much, but like they are objectively good additions that make them better. They're going to be a better team this year than they were last year, so maybe they can win 2 games off the Knicks in the playoffs. But I think that I think they're going to win a lot of games, and I would not surprise me if they're past this with like 7-8 games left in the season.
Yeah, I would have to agree. I think you didn't even mention the potential for a Mobley leap. Even if he doesn't take a leap, then he's probably going to be better.
Yeah, like imagine if he has like a hook shot or anything on offense that he can do. That'll be amazing.
Yeah. Or just, even like a midi, like an average midi, right? Or being able to be a fake shooter, which he kind of was as a rookie last year, less so. Certainly not in the playoffs.
He made a 3 against us his rookie season.
He went 2 for 4. He had 20 and 10. He packed up Randall.
There was one 3 where Randall literally like just stared at him. Like he watched him kind of line it up.
It's like the P. Diddy meme.
All right. Like, yeah, he's just waiting. And Mobley, I remember he made it, and I was like, you shoot like 9% from 3. But that wasn't even the dumbest shooting performance of the game because that was the Ricky Rubio game.
No, they're a regular season team. It's going to be hell to score on them. The one thing I would caution is how many games they got won early in the season, because Donovan Mitchell started out the season shooting just he was shooting 43% from. He was shooting Steph numbers for a good chunk of that year. Can he do that again? I think he did regress over the season, but he still finished at a much higher 3-point percentage. Just looking at, he shot 39% from three on 9.3 attempts per game. He did that a couple years ago in Utah on 8.7 attempts. So it's not unprecedented. Can he do that again? And can he do that, kind of as stacked as he did? In terms of variance, that's a little bit of a question. But Garland should get better. Mobley should get better. And with their defense and the ability to create, like they played at a 57-win pace. They outpaced their over/under last year. Barring, I think a lot of these over/unders, I'm curious if the Dame trade is baked in to kind of depress some of these. But Cleveland, I think, is going to be a top. I think they'll overtake Philly this year at the minimum, and maybe Boston if Boston has injuries. So I'll take you over there.
Yeah, I'm with you guys. The only thing I'll add is I think I would bet on them to be the 1 seed. That's how high
I think we talked about this on the props, right?
Yeah. I think they're very live to be the number 1 overall seed. One thing y'all didn't mention about Evan Mobley is like, can he just be better on the short roll? Like, if he had any competence on the short roll, I'm not going to say they beat the Knicks, but holy shit, he was incompetent. Like Mitch was guarding them 1-on-2 by himself every single time, and it was just due to complete lack of respect for what Evan Mobley could do. His floaters never came close.
So do you think that's more based on the shot making or the passing?
I just think it was the decision making. Yeah. I think that he had turnovers that were like, why did you even attempt that pass? And because he didn't feel confident in the floater. Like, okay, to go back to your question, I think it starts with the shot making, because I think if he has a floater he's confident in, that trickles down and lets him feel more confident in the decision making. So I do think it starts with a lack of belief in the floater. And when the floater gets down, I think, it'll get better from there. But yeah, I mean, he's still so young, and like, I'm not throwing shade at the guy. It was his first ever playoff series, and Mitchell Robinson
let me do that.
Yeah, Mitchell Robinson ate him for dinner, like, that's okay. I think they're going to be really good. I'm much higher than Shwin is on the Strus and Niang acquisitions. I think Strus is pretty much the perfect wing. And I said this the last time we talked, but it's really important to remember Strus isn't being compared to league average wings here. In order to evaluate what he's going to do for Cleveland, we have to compare him to who he's replacing. They had the worst wing rotation in the entire
NBA. Is he better
than
LeVert, though? That's kind of... I mean, he's better in that role, I guess, in terms of spacing, but LeVert's a good player, right?
I don't think so. We talked about this last time, too. I don't think LeVert's very good at all. I think he's...
Baby Durant?
Yeah, I think he's fine off the bench. He can get hot.
He's a better defender than Strus, you'd say that, right?
No, I think...
I don't know. Look, you made a really good point the last time we were on. Actually, I think it was y'all's last solo pod together. You talked about, is Strus a product of his environment in Miami versus what can he do on his own? I thought that was a great little monologue you went on, and that's something I'm going to watch for. But as a team defender...
I don't want my environment. I don't want to be a product of my environment. I want my environment to be a product of me.
Yes. As a team defender, I would take Strus over LeVert. And as someone to just fit in next to Garland and Mitchell, I very much would take Strus over LeVert. LeVert, for whatever, he definitely wants the ball in his hands. He definitely likes being the guy. I'm not saying he's like a locker room cancer or anything. He's definitely done well in Cleveland. I'm just saying that Strus just more naturally plays off of really good players. I think he's going to help them a lot. And I think Niang will give them, in the regular season, a competent 3 big man rotation that will allow them to diversify a little bit more. That's the last thing I'll say. I think they're going to be really good.
Yeah, I'm okay with all of that.
Niang is still getting eaten up by Mitchell Robinson, though, I think.
Yeah, I think so too. But that's why they play the games. All right. Moving on. we really need to start picking up the pace a little bit. Dallas 44.5. I think they're unequivocally better than they were last year. It's not like a really a hot take. I don't. I just get the same vibes from Jason Kidd that I got from him in Milwaukee, where it's like the pattern seems so similar. Where it's like first season everything is great, everything's working. Second season kind of goes to shit. We'll see how it bounces back third season. People can talk themselves into Kyrie for the 9 millionth time if they want. I'm not going to. Fuck that guy. He's unreliable for a variety of reasons. I like the Grant Williams pickup. Okay. I like what they did in the draft. I don't love that as far as its
an
impact.
immediate impact.
Yeah, I know Prez is really big on Derek Lively as a rookie. I will continue to just bet on rookies being bad. Not everybody is made like Emmanuel Quickly. And not every third overall pick can play well in the playoffs. Which Cleveland found out. So I will, I'm going to take the under here. Team's better. Team makes more sense. I like some of the pieces here. Like I like Jaden Hardy. I like Josh Green. I just don't know how much they're actually going to be able to impact stuff with Luka and Kyrie just dominating the ball as much as they do. I know they were historically great on offense with those two on the floor together. I don't expect that to not be the case, but I still don't think the defense is going to be good. And I still think their center rotation is among the worst in the league. I know Richaun Holmes, they kind of got as a flyer, but that guy basically didn't play basketball last year. He hasn't played in a couple years, more or less. I don't know how much he really has left in the tank or how good he even is. And again, I don't trust Jason Kidd. So the West is also good. So like they're better, but I don't know that means that they're going to become significantly better this season. So I'll take the under on Dallas, 44.5 here.
They do have to be significantly better. Yes, they tanked at the end. Thanks for that.
I should mention this. I just need to mention this. The juice on this is actually pretty fucking wild. Minus 145 on the over, plus 115 on the under. So if you are taking the under, like I suggested, one, don't quote me on this. Two, know that Vegas is better at this job than I am. And if you like rolling with people that are smart, roll with Vegas.
Yeah. I mean, they have to get 6 games better. I am higher on Kyrie being there than Shwin. I do think he'll play more than 60 games this year. I think that's just on a regular season nightly basis, a very tough combo to deal with that. We saw with Chicago, particularly 2 years ago, with DeRozan and Levine, late in games. Those are just two very difficult mismatched threats. I would probably lean to the under though. I don't really think the Christian Wood loss is a big loss, but they lost him, their main addition. I mean, I like Grant Williams a lot. I think that's the kind of addition they need. I actually am a little bit higher on probably the centers than Shwin is, because I've always been a fan of Maxi Kleber. I think he's a pretty good player. He allows them to do things on offense, and I think he's underrated as a defender. But there's a lack of depth. I like Jaden Hardy a lot. How much he's going to be able to impact on a team that already has Luka and Kyrie? There's probably diminishing returns there. I could see Josh Green taking maybe a leap, but that's a big gap to close. 6 wins, as you said. The West should be better. There's going to be injuries. I do think that's a conversation worth having because, and we talked about this before. We were talking about kind of the futures. There are a lot of teams in the West that are old. So the Suns got better, a lot of old players. LeBron is a ticking clock. We don't know what that's going to look like. Ja is suspended. I think that Shwin believes probably that Steph is going to be Tom Brady type, where he's going to play till he's 45. And honestly, I think there's a lot of reason to believe in that. I still think he's going to miss a lot of games. I think Draymond is getting up there. I am less of a believer in Clay's post All-Star break being sustainable than others. So there's some upside here. Ultimately, do I think there's 6 wins better than last year, even if we give them a couple extra because they tanked? Probably not. But there's a lot of variance I think that worked against them as well. This is a really tough one for me. I think I do like if you ask me the questions about things that can go wrong, it's tough for me to say yes because do I think Kyrie is going to act up again? I actually don't. I don't think there's any reasons here. Do I think Luka is going to be in better shape? I think with Stephen.
Come on, man.
I think he's going to. I think they're going to be better. I don't think they're going to, but I also think they're not going to get away from kind of the ISO stuff. I don't think Derek Lively is going to move the needle, but they have a lot of talent. This is one I really hate this. I think 44 is a well set. I would probably go under, but there's just like I said, because of the teams in the West, so many of them have injury risks. Because I think they do have a lot of upside if Kyrie is kind of available, which I think I put higher probability in that than Shwin. I'm not confident in this at all, but I'll go under.
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna go under as well. Fun fact about the Mavs last year: they were 6 points better with Kyrie and no Luka than they were with Luka and no Kyrie. I think that Kyrie sneakily matters to their team a lot.
Are you saying he creates more of a flat hierarchy among the?
Yes, is what I'm saying. God damn it, Stacy. I think that Luka's style is very quickly becoming outdated, and I think that he is going to have to evolve as a basketball player if the Mavericks want to have any success, or we're going to keep talking about how he needs help. So yeah, I mean, I agree with almost everything you guys said about. I like Grant Williams. I think he's a great addition. I think Josh Green probably won't play enough. I think Derek Lively definitely won't play enough, especially considering who their center rotation is. I like Maxi Kleba. Oh, I don't like Jaden Hardy. You both said you liked him. I feel very strongly that he is not very good, but I guess we'll see. Maybe he'll improve. I think the West is too tough. I think the league's too tough, and I would go under here.
Yeah, agree with that. So we're all under on Dallas, but we'll see. Good chance that Vegas makes us look stupid about this. All right, next one is the Denver Nuggets, the defending champs. Over or 53.5 is the win total. That's the juice is even on this both ways. I think that's crazy. I think this is an easy over. I'm not even really. I like Bruce Brown. I'm not sure losing Bruce Brown is going to move the needle too much in the regular season anyway. So yeah, easy over for me, 53.5.
They did win 53 games last year with Brown. They're the best player in the world. How much time did Murray miss last year? Did he miss?
I don't know, but he looked like shit for like half the season, basically.
So that's where your upside is coming from, along with potential. They lost, in my opinion, the greatest player in the league in Bones Highland, so that's kind of a big loss. No, I actually would go under here. I think the West is good. I think I am curious to see if they do load manage Jokic a little bit more. They've won one now. I don't know about the historical precedent for this, so if I'm just way off, definitely correct me. I do think there's a chance that given that they've won one, that might be a thing they do more is to rest, especially Murray and Porter who have had injury issues. I mean, even Gordon's had injury issues. I do wonder if this is a team that's going to pace itself a little bit more than they have. It's tough because they have the best home court advantage in basketball. But I'm going to go under. They won fewer games last year when they were a great team. They would still be my favorites to win the NBA championship this year, but I'm going to go under on that.
I'm going to be a little bit harsher, I think, than you guys were. I was on here getting shit from Shwin and Sam and Tyrese about being a Jokic believer. So I was alone on Jokic Island saying that he should.
It was for being a white supremacist, actually.
Yeah, I was definitely. I don't love what I almost feel like they've gotten content. Like they're going to have one of the best starting lineups, 5-man units in the NBA, but their 7th man is Justin Holiday or Reggie Jackson. Like they have 5 NBA players, maybe 6 if you believe in Christian Brown. Excuse me. I know he pronounced his name stupid. I don't know. Like I know the Nuggets just
wait. So
find
Brown is stupid? What are you saying to us, man?
well because I should say he spells it stupid. Look, I know the Nuggets just find a way. Like I'm sure somebody they drafted will just end up being good. And I know that Jokic elevates players unlike almost any non-Steph player in the NBA today. And he definitely directly elevates players better than any player in the NBA today. But I don't know. I do not love their roster outside of their starting 5. And all it takes is an injury, them resting guys like Stacy was saying. I feel pretty strongly about the under, if I'm being honest.
Do you guys know how much is there precedent for like once you win one, teams resting their guys? Like I'm curious to like I
don't think it's about rest. I think it's more like guys get complacent, guys don't give a shit as much. They're not busting their ass, on the second night of a back-to-back in February.
That's what happened in winning time. So
yeah, I mean it can work both ways though. There are teams that have like won, and I mean people forget this now, thank God, because they didn't end up going back-to-back. But like that Boston team, after they won the championship the next year, they were unreal the next season. Yep. Like, they were absolutely fucking lights out. Yeah, and then KG got hurt, and we did not have to hear him scream anything is possible again.
And the same thing would go for the second Heat team that titled.
Yeah.
They were ridiculous. That was their
isn't that when LeBron shot like 42% from 3 and you're just like, okay, well,
it was his bet. He had that crazy stretch where he had like 8 straight games of 30 plus points on over 60% from the field or something like that. Like he was unbelievable. They had the 27 game winning streak. It almost cost them in the playoffs. They tried so hard in the regular season. So yeah, it can go either way. And one last thing is we can move on to the next team after this, but I think the Nuggets are the defending champs now. They're going to get it more from other teams than they did last season. I think there are certain people who are probably sick of Jokic getting all this, over. Like I just think it's going to be tougher for them this season.
Yeah, I hear all your reasoning. I just think they're motivated, and I think they'll be fine. But we'll see. All right, Detroit 27.5. Juice is even on both ends here. I'm under. I think they're a bad team. I think they're stupidly managed. I think their roster is poorly constructed. I like Monty Williams. I actually think he's a really good coach for exactly where they are right now. So if I was going to bet the over, he would be the main reason for it, to be honest. But like I don't know. I think the whole fucking thing about with Wiseman, like they're gonna play him. He's going to get minutes because their GM loves him. I don't understand. They have all these bigs like Marvin Bagley. It doesn't make sense to me. They added shooting with like getting Joe Harris, and I actually kind of think that move is okay. But like, how many minutes is he actually going to get? I don't know what Burks is still doing there. I don't know what Bogdanovich is still doing there. I think these guys should have been moved. At least one of them should have been gone. I don't know.
Would you trade Evan Fournier for Alec Burks?
Gladly, I would have fucking
Evan Fournier in a first for Alec Burks.
No. Don't even get me started on the Burks Fournier thing. That was so stupid. But yeah, I'm under on this. I just think they're a bad team and they're stupidly managed, and that counts for a lot.
I'm inclined to agree with you. I think 22 is pretty low, but I do think the East
27.
is 27. Oh, I thought you said
27.5.
Oh, 27.5. Then I'm definitely taking the under. I think that they have some interesting young talent. I like Jaden Ivey a lot. The one kind of inflection for me is Cade Cunningham shot 27% from 3 last year. I don't think he's a 27% 3-point shooter. I believe in that. I still think. I mean, you picked him very high in when we did the draft.
Oh yeah, I like Cade.
I think there's a good chance he takes a big leap. And if I was going to bet on that with LaMelo, I think that I would put him in more on that with Cade. I think with Harris there, they can give some extra spacing. But ultimately, they have a million bigs. And it's just the East is good. And 28 wins, that's a lot. So I'm going to go under as well.
Yep, under. nothing super interesting to add. Their big man rotation is ridiculous. They need to trim that down. They need
and none of them can defend. Jalen Duren, can we talk about this? Jalen Duren, the guy that is apparently better than Mitchell Robinson, was ass on defense. Maybe one day he will be good. That's why you don't that's one reason you don't take a fucking big in the lottery. Even Mark Williams was like not a great defender, and Duren is way behind them. Do I think he's going to be good one day? Yes, but none of their bigs can defend. That's a pretty big deal. You know?
I got I did what should be impossible. I got Pistons Hive found Strickland after one of the Knicks Pistons games. I did this like mini thread on just how bad Duren was on defense. Like his defense was so bad. He had no idea where to be ever, at least in that game. But I mean, the thing is that he's still, from an upside standpoint, it's way more there than Bagley and Wiseman. And like Duren needs to be able to play 30 plus minutes a night.
He will be good one day.
Right, exactly. And that there's no reason for that not to start this year. He actually fits well with Cade and Ivy, who are trying, like Ivy especially, trying to get to the basket. Like Shwin said, they added shooting. It doesn't have to be miserable there. They just need to clean it up a little bit, and they need to like trim the fat. But yeah, I feel pretty comfortable going under here.
Yeah, I'm under on this. I don't even really want to talk about this team anymore because they're fucking shit.
Welcome
all right.
to goddamn Detroit, motherfucker.
Yes. All right. Next team, Golden State Warriors. The line is 48.5. It's at minus 115. Juice on either end, so it's even. God, I don't know. I think their team is weird. I don't know. I like the Chris Paul trade because I'm like, okay, he's going to be the perfect backup point guard. You can extend his career this way, or at least for the season. And every time you guys lost Steph's not the non-Steph minutes, now you will win those because Chris Paul can run an offense. But now there's murmurs that he's going to start, and like I don't like that. It feels like they're trying to throw him a bone, and then they'll eventually bench him anyways. But like I don't know. I think I'll take the under here, but I don't feel great about this either way.
Yeah,
and it pains me to take a step under.
Yeah, I was surprised you did that because I know you're always a fan of them, but I mean, it sounds like it's more regular season than playoffs for you, right? I would assume
it's just this Chris Paul thing. I think like if you told me from day one Chris Paul's not going to start, I'll take the over here.
So let me throw this back to you. We all agree, I think all three of us, that Steph is one of the best off-ball players ever, right? Maybe the best off-ball player ever.
Yes,
I think
if you got to play with, as much as Chris Paul might be washed, if you got to play with him, I don't know that that's the worst thing, right?
But I don't want to do that. Like, Chris Paul should be fucking thankful he's on his team. He should touch Steph's feet every single day when he walks in the locker room and thank him for giving him a chance at a championship this year, which he doesn't deserve because he's a loser.
Just think about Steph playing off of Chris Paul.
But Paul doesn't have gravity like that anymore. Paul does not have gravity like that anymore.
I don't know if he needs the gravity though because of how much Steph has. And I'm not his ability to find him, you know?
This is like you're not running the lovely, beautiful 15,000 screens and everybody's sprinting off ball stuff with Chris Paul. Like that's fine. Like I think there's a value to having a different.
So you think their whole thing is going to change because of his kind of?
I just think it's like a huge adjustment for no reason. You had the best starting five in basketball last year, I think by net rating still, and like they're all back. So just fucking start them and have Chris Paul come off the bench, which was your huge problem last year because Jordan Poole spent the entire season pissing and shitting on himself. Like this is not. We don't need to reinvent the wheel. The wheel works just fine. They need a second wheel. Okay, they need a second fucking wheel. Chris Paul can come. He's just come off the bench, but I don't think they're going to do that. I think he has an ego, and he started, and he's always started, and so therefore they have to do this fucking annoying thing that teams have to do, where it's like, oh, well, we have to try it, even though we know it's probably going to suck. We got to try it, and then it'll suck, and then they'll move in the bench, and they'll be much better. But yeah, I don't like this over for that very specific reason.
Yeah, for me, that's not the reason for me. I just think they won 44 games last year. I don't think Chris Paul makes them 4 games better. I'm not going to bet on Draymond and Steph being available for more than that. Are they much better? Are they a title threat? Absolutely. But I'm not going to bet on this team to stay healthy and not just stay healthy. Again, it goes like Steve Kerr is going to load manage. They would probably win 82 games if Steve Kerr just drafted Tyrese Halliburton and traded Steph and let him play Tyrese Halliburton. Steve Kerr hates Tyrese Halliburton. He's Magic Johnson times Steph Curry by 100. So that's the important thing to take away. But given that they don't have that, it's the age of this team. It's the fact that they're probably going to pace themselves. Oh, there isn't a whole lot of margin for that in the West. 48 is pretty high for me, especially since they won 44 last year and they won 53 2 years ago. But they're 2 years older. I don't think they have a lot of young guys who can. I mean, maybe I think the X factors are things like Kuminga making a leap, which I think is totally possible. I really like his game. Moody making a leap, I think that's even more substantial. But they're gonna play behind guys who are gonna get a lot of minutes. So I don't know how much that moves the needle. Can that tide them over a little bit when they are resting Raymond or resting Looney? Can Kuminga take that Looney role? There are some upside and variance there, but I would probably take the under.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you guys. The only thing I'll add is that I think you both were kind of right about the CP3 Steph stuff. Like, I very much agree with Shwin that a team that is so analytics friendly should understand that that 5-man unit was one of the best in basketball and it should just start. But I think that you're not giving enough credit to what Chris Paul can do for Steph. And I think I'm very excited to see that because I do think there are things that they can do together on the court and they should spend time on the court together.
I'm excited to see them together. I'm not excited to see them start together. That's what I'm definitely not excited to see. All right. Moving on to the next team. This is an interesting one. Houston, 31.5. The over is -130. The under is +100. I don't know. I think they're going to be a lot better. I think they're going to be a lot more competitive. I think Dylan Brooks is kind of underrated at this point, which is disgusting to say. But I'm going to say I'm going to go over on this, I think.
Yeah,
I feel great about this.
I'd go over too. I do think at some point they'll make a trade of some weight. I think Jalen Green, is primed for a leap, so I'm pretty high on that. We have to talk about it. I would imagine Kevin Porter Jr. is not going to play another game for them. I don't think that's a big loss.
Total.
I think that I think I'm really high on Jalen Green. I think Brooks will help shore up their defense. They have a lot of good young players, Şengün, Jabari Smith. I think that and they've surrounded them with some vets. They can defend a little bit now. Are they going to make a threat for the playoffs? I don't know. I'm still going to leave open the possibility too that maybe they do trade for Harden or maybe something if everything goes to shit in Philadelphia. I don't think that's a crazy notion or them maybe getting in the mix. It's a 9-win leap, but they have the kind of pieces you would want to see to make that leap. And there's teams that are going to fall off in the West. I don't think Portland's going to be as good. I don't think Utah is going to be as good. So I think there's some wins for them to be had. I think they're going to be a lot better. So I'm going to take you over there.
I'm going to go under, and I hope I'm wrong. I'm rooting for them. I just think cool young teams with lots of fun young players. I want them to be entertaining, and I want to watch them and not hate watch them like I did last year. I don't think they're going to be in on Harden. I don't see why they would do that with Van Vliet and Jalen Green. I agree that Dylan Brooks is underrated at this point. I think he helps you, especially in the right environment. And they just are weirdly filled with guys who all of a sudden the Rockets who couldn't do anything last season have a really competent head coach and can run a 9-man rotation with guys you're not ashamed are on the court. like Tari Eason,
Ashamed
Jason.
is such a strong word.
Yeah, but like they've got like if you just look at their bench rotation right now, they've got Amen Thompson, they've got Tari Eason, they've got Jock Landale, they've got Jayshawn Tate. You know, these are guys who can play NBA minutes off the bench, and that's their bench. That's their bench now. With Udoka, I could see myself being wrong. I'm not going to say it's a blast play, but again, somebody in the West has to lose games. Somebody's got to be, you know, at the bottom, and I think the Rockets are going to be one of those teams.
Yeah, I don't think that's. I think that's completely reasonable. Yeah, they can't shoot. It's another problem with this team. It's a problem, and their center rotation sucks. By the way, I am not a believer in Alperen Şengün. Like, he's a really great offensive player who made me think he made Enes Kanter look like fucking prime Hakeem Olajuwon on defense when I watched him last year. Maybe I'm wrong. We'll see. Maybe Udoka gets something out of it.
Would you pay prime Hakeem Olajuwon $50,000 for training? He hasn't been good since the 90s.
I wouldn't, because I don't have $50,000 to spend. Okay, moving on. Indiana Pacers, 38.5 is the line. Juice is even on both ends. I'm over on this, and I've explained why I'm high on this team on multiple pods before. I think adding Obi was, I love Halliburton. No, he's a really good player though. I think adding Obi helps. I think they're four. Like their rotation at the 4 last year was a disaster, and just getting Obi and Jarris is probably like that's enough to me to like make a significant difference. I like Mathurin a lot. I think he can score. This team is going to score a bunch. I think they play fast. I think they're going to play. Bruce Brown was a good pickup. They still have Buddy Hield, so they have a lot of shooting. They play fast. Will they defend or rebound very well? Probably not. But I think you can win a lot of NBA regular season games playing fast, playing efficient, scoring basketball. And Carlisle I think he's done a good job of developing this team and kind of like embracing their strengths as a run and gun team. So yeah, I'm over on this. I think I think they're like top 6 potential in these.
They were top 6 before they benched Halliburton last year.
Well, he got hurt.
I mean, how much of it was them keeping him out versus him getting hurt is whatever that is. Yeah, you're right. With Halliburton in the lineup, they were a top 6 seed. And I think they're going to have some. I think I think I'm a little bit higher even on Mathurin's ability to take a jump this year. They have a lot of good young players who are candidates to take a leap. I'm less high on the OB acquisition, I think, than you are. But I like Jarris.
We talked about this earlier.
But Jarris is they really need a defender, and Jarris is a terrific defender. I think he is one of the rare few rookies that will be one off the bat, and I think his passing, he can replicate a lot of what Obi would even give you as a passer. So, you know, they're going to be better at the 4, whichever guy it is. I think Mathurin's going to be a lot better. And if they get a full season with Halliburton, they won 35 games even with Halliburton missing almost half the season. I'm going to take it over.
Yeah, I'm huge on the over. This is one of my favorite lines. I mean, again, I just said something similar about the Rockets. 10-man rotation of competency. Like, and then you take like a team that was in the playoff hunt before Tyrese Halliburton got hurt, and you had 2 guys in Bruce Brown and Obi Toppin who are like ultimate impact guys. Like them being on the court is a good thing. Whether, you know, they have the ball or don't have the ball. And yeah, that's really good for Halliburton. It's really good for the team. And Miles Turner is sneakily like the perfect fit with Obi. Like I know we've talked about the Pacers as a whole being a great fit with Obi, but placing Obi next to Miles Turner, if he can't figure it out, quote unquote, here, then he wasn't going to figure it out anywhere. I think he's going to figure it out. I think he's going to have a great year, and I think the Pacers are going to have a really good year.
Yeah, fuck you, Stacy.
Bruce Brown, I think, is a great point. That's going to be a great acquisition. So is Jarris. And I'll leave it at that.
But did you say over too, Stacy?
Yeah, we all said over.
All right. This is the Pacers are like disgustingly one of my favorite bets on the board. That over is, I don't know. That one's bananas to me. Clipper. This is fucking nuts. Clippers 46.5. The juice is even on this both ways. I'm betting under. I actually haven't even looked at these lines really. Like I'm gonna go ahead and bet against the team that can't fucking ever stay healthy.
Yeah, Kawhi
they added nothing this summer, right? What did they do?
They got Kenyon Martin Jr.
Great. Yeah, awesome. Fucking pumped.
Yeah,
they almost got Malcolm Brogdon.
Kawhi's last few. Kawhi has not played more than 60 games since 2016, 2017. Last 3 years, 52 games last year. Did not play the year before. 52 the year before that. 57 before that. Paul George, maybe even more impactfully, is same thing. I can look that up, but you can't rely on that. There is a lot of upside there if you believe they're going to stay healthy. But Paul George actually is more 56 games last year, 31 games the year before, 54 the year before, 48 the year before. Neither of them can stay healthy. It's a shame. They're super talented, but that's pretty easy under. I mean, if I'm going to take the Warriors under at 48, I'm definitely taking the Clippers under.
I'm assuming that if you're going to bet on this, the reason to bet on this is that it's a contract year potentially for Paul George and Kawhi Leonard, and they may very mysteriously become more durable this season if that were the case. I think that you're betting on.
Might manage their loads better.
But I think we all bet. Did we all say under, or Geoff? Did you not say anything yet?
I haven't said anything, but I am on the under. I don't like their depth. Obviously, they can. George and Kawhi are a year older. Who knows how long they're going to stay healthy for? Yeah, I feel pretty good about this under. They didn't even have to deal with the play-in last year and only won 44 games. I think the parity of the league actually suppresses win totals. Like, that's obvious, but like with this new format with the play-in, you would think that it would be a little bit more top-heavy because teams would be trying to avoid the play-in, but no, like it's actually flattened out the win totals. So I think that the Clippers can kind of do their thing and not be in the play-in, but still go under like they did last year. So yeah, I feel pretty good about the under.
Yeah, this is a team where they seem really stagnant, and that can be when a team completely implodes. So we'll see what happens. Also, they had a weird thing with Ty Lue. I don't think Ty Lue wants to be there anymore. That's throwing that out there. Lakers, 47.5 is the number. I think this is a pretty easy over. They got better this offseason. I thought they figured out the majority of things they needed to figure out by the end of last season with their roster. Do I think Rui Hachimura is going to shoot like an alien again? Probably not, but I think we saw exactly what we needed to see from him, that he is an NBA player and that he can benefit playing alongside LeBron James and Anthony Davis, which shouldn't be a surprise. The main concern I think I would have is if Anthony Davis gets hurt, I am a lot lower on what this team can do, because I do think that like their strength is defense. That's what they've been good at. He is an elite defender. He's arguably the best defender in basketball when healthy. I thought he was phenomenal when he was healthy last year on defense. And honestly, I think he's kind of just become an underrated player in general, which is mostly due to injury. But, there's always the risk of injury. But I like this. I think this Lakers team is good. And if you have one thing that kind of control, like if you're like, well, if aside from Anthony Davis getting hurt, I feel pretty good about this roster. And I think they're much better suited to overcome an injury to LeBron than they ever have been in the past few years.
Couldn't agree more.
I think there's a lot of reason for optimism. I'll also say this, though. They're at 47.5. They've won 43, 33, 42 games. LeBron hasn't played over 55 games in the last 3 years. Yes, they're more suited to deal with that, but you're still dealing with an injury to LeBron. You're dealing with a massive injury risk in Anthony Davis. I still think that in terms of two-way players, like I like Jared Vanderbilt a lot. There's still going to be spacing issues there. In terms, I think maybe Austin Reeves takes another jump and they figure out some of the issues they had. I do think they can just be better for like what we've talked about with the Knicks, just replacing Evan Fournier minutes with Hart and those kind of things and less Rose minutes and more quickly minutes, but there's just so many risks there. And even when they're all healthy, I don't love the kind of spacing and two-way aspects of that roster maybe as much. So I'm going to go under here. I do realize probably if someone looks at this pod, I've been going under on a lot of Western Conference teams. So maybe this is one where I would take a risk there. But I just think there's a lot of downside in terms of health and in terms of roster construction, even though it's a lot better than it has been the last couple of years.
I think they're going to be really good. I think they're a sneaky candidate for like the 1 seed in the West. I think they just have a lot of players who you're fine with on the court, which is pretty huge for like, that's why they won the title in 2020. They basically just always had 3 guys next to Davis and LeBron who you're just fine with on the court. The only thing I'm kind of worried about is the Anthony Davis doesn't want to play center stuff. That always pisses me off. And it just worries me about him in general. Like, how does he not know? Who in his camp is like, yeah, dude, you're a power forward. Like, no, you're not. You're actually one of the most valuable centers in the league. Please be like, they're not banging down low anymore. There's no Bill Laimbeer like down there. Was he even if he played quote unquote power forward, it's going to be next to Christian Wood. His role on defense is going to be that of a center. He's not going to be out on the perimeter. So why does it matter if he's playing center next to Christian Wood or power forward next to Christian Wood or center next to LeBron? I don't understand what his deal is. That worries me a little bit. Of course, there's injury risk, but I think Pelinka's done an amazing job. I like almost all their pieces. Me and Stacy talked about them as being kind of lottery tickets. Like I don't really feel too great about any single one of them in a vacuum, but they have like 6 or 7 guys that like there's a decent chance pan out next to LeBron and Davis, and they only need a few of them to. So yeah, I feel pretty good about the over here.
Yeah, I'm pretty happy they also just got Gabe Vincent out of the East. So thanks to them for that.
Well, I'm sorry, Shwin. I know we're trying to speed this up a little bit, but why do you what don't you like about it? I've heard you say it 3 or 4 times, and what are the origins of your hatred for him?
I just think if you go back and watch game 1, he definitely went out of his way to hurt Mitch. Thought it was a dirty play, and Mitch was definitely played the rest of that series hurt. Which, only one guy on our team apparently gets that pass, but we're not going to talk about that because I spent most of the start of this pod defending him. All right. The next one. Memphis 46.5. They had the season from fucking hell last year, and they won 52 games or something like that. They were a 51 win team.
51.
Yeah, 51 win team. I have some concerns about their rebounding going into the season. I have some concerns about their depth and blah, blah, blah. But like, I would be shocked if they don't cover this. I think this is like crazy. You're saying they're 2 wins better than the fucking Mavericks. Like, give me a break, dude. Yeah. Then you're them winning less than the Lakers, who like, look, do they have to worry about if John Morant's gonna start waving around a gun again? Sure, but like, they don't. I don't think the injury
missing what 23 games or
25, right? 25. So, and even with that, I think like you got Smart, like you have Bane, you have guys like I think they're fine without that. All they need to do really to me is go like 14-11 without Morant, and they'll be fine. They'll cover this. I think this is a good number. I'm taking the over, and I say this is somebody who definitely does not like them. Also, Adams missed a lot of time last year, and I think people are underrating how important that was for them.
Yeah, I would say that's the biggest factor. If he can stay healthy, and that is a needle mover, it kind of helps Jaren a lot. Who I think Jaren Jackson is now being a little bit underrated based on the FIBA stuff, but he is what he is. He's not a good rebounder, but his spacing opens up a lot of stuff for them. I am curious to see how they deal with the loss of Dylan Brooks, but I think Marcus Smart should more than fill that void. I would take the over too.
Yeah, I mean, everybody knows this already, but like their no jot numbers have been really good. Like the last few years, they're fine. This isn't. I mean, he sort of falls under the Derrick Rose Iverson thing where he's the exciting guy on really good teams, so they want to give him all the credit, but like actually here's the reason they're actually good, you know. I think they'll be fine. I think Smart is better than Tyus Jones, although I think Tyus Jones is underrated. 40, this is my favorite line that we've done so far. I think this is just way over. Like, yeah, 51 wins last year, and
I think if you really are willing to take a risk, you could take some action on over 50 wins for them, over 51 wins for them. Like, I think this is like a way over one. This to me is like 5 or 6, probably over, if not more. They could be the 1 seed in the West. Like, I really think they could be 1 seed again. So
the only worry I have for them is their wing rotation. After losing Dylan Brooks, they don't have a small forward that, like, are they going to play Luke Kennard at small forward some minutes? Maybe, but he can't defend at the small forward. John Conchar and Shwin's favorite player, David Roddy, are I swear I've heard more David Roddy.
I do really like Conchar, though. Conchar is a good player.
Yeah. Do you think they go small with Smart at the 3 at all, or do you think it's not?
Oh, they definitely will when Jaw's healthy. That lineup will be awesome. The Jaw, Bane, Smart combo, I'm all about that.
They just need Adams to 100% play with that lineup so that somebody can get rebounds.
And I actually really like Aldama. I thought he looked really good in FIBA. I didn't know he could do something.
That's Schwin's guy, Santi Aldama.
No,
that guy smoked Julius twice last year.
Dude, he's a good player. Yeah, I'm with you. I'm way over. This is really good. Stacy, I'm gonna need you to clarify the sort of eye roll when I made the Ja Iverson Rose comment after the pod. We don't have to talk about it on here.
I don't think that was an eye roll at all. I think.
Oh, okay. Yeah. No. I didn't mean that in a confrontational way. I'm just curious. I want to.
I don't really
Jeff's trying to fight. Jeff's trying to fight. All right. Please, we can't. I can't talk about this team. Like, there's just really nothing to talk about. Miami 48.5. Juice is even on this both ways. I'm like, I actually will take the under. They load manage all the time. Butler always misses games. If Dame comes, he'll probably load manage a little bit just because that's what they do, and they know that all they need to do is get to the playoffs with their guys healthy, and Spo will probably at least get them to a conference finals or something. So this to me is just an under, because if they don't get Dame, I think they're closer to the team they were in the regular season last year than they were to the team in the playoffs. And they lost 2 guys off that team who I think were among their 5 or 6 best players. So I'll go under here, but I will not bet it. I'm not going to bet this team.
Yeah, and it's all dependent on the Dame thing, and that's just tough to have an idea of what's going to happen. If you have a strong belief that Dame's going to trade it to them, I think this is an over. I agree with everything Shwin said. I think they're closer to the team. I think it's a joke that we lost to them. I've already talked about that a lot. They also lost 2 important players. Fuck Miami. Fuck the Heat. Yeah, under.
I think this is just a really uninteresting one to talk about because it's so Dame dependent.
Yeah.
But what I will say is the only commentary I can give on this from a betting standpoint is I think they're more likely to go under with Dame than they are to go over without Dame. So if you view their chances at acquiring Dame as near 50-50, this is a slam dunk under bet, because if you just sort by the range of outcomes, I don't think there's much of a chance of them going over 48.5 unless they acquire Dame. Whereas I actually think that they're, like Shwin and Stacy, you both talked about, there are paths where they win fewer than 48.5 games with Dame because it takes time to acclimate, because they're going to emphasize the playoffs more than the regular season. And yeah, I mean, so I'm going to say under, but I don't want, if they get Dame, they obviously could just win 55 games too. So it's kind of risky.
Yep. Yeah, I'm with that. Did you say under?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's too high to go under, too low to go over. So you're stuck in the middle.
You're
right. All right. Jesus. All right. Milwaukee, 52.5. This is Juice is even on this both ways. I like the over, but I'm not going to be touching this. I mean, I'm not going to be betting most of these, but I don't trust Middleton. I think they basically got amazing regular seasons last year from Drew and Brooke. I'm not sure it's fair to just expect them to hit the same level. By the same token, Giannis probably had one of his worst regular seasons in recent memory, which is not like that still puts him as very firmly one of the 3 best players in basketball. But like he did not have one of his better regular seasons last year. This team just feels, we talked about this on the NFL pod today about how like the Bengals felt stale. This team feels stale. This team feels really stale. It feels like they're going to keep doing the same thing. And yeah, like I don't know. I'll take the over, but I really am. I don't see this team winning a championship without some major move. This is just like I understand they had a bad injury luck, but I'm kind of worried about this team. The vibes don't feel great too either. With like Giannis, like it's like, dude, we get it. Yes, we understand that if you don't feel like the team is competitive, that you will look to leave. Like you don't need to repeat this every fucking time someone shoves a camera in your face.
Yeah, I think this is they've been trending up. I think this is the year they bucked the trend. I'm gonna go with the under, and I for all the reasons you mentioned, Lopez. He is what he is, but you're relying on him to. It's a little bit like the Horford situation in Boston. Giannis has had health issues. I don't trust Middleton. We'll see what happens with Drew. They don't have a lot of young talent. And yeah, the vibes, like, what did they win last year? 53 games? And I think they're going to be better next year.
They won 58.
Yeah, they were a monster last
So
year.
I'd be betting on regression.
Yeah.
I will bet on that though. If I had to take it, I think that this is. I think there are teams in the East that are just going to be better. They're getting older. I don't see a lot of candidates for improvement. I'm gonna bet the under.
Yeah, I'm on the over. But I agree with like almost everything you guys said. Stacy, the stuff your worries and just thing they take a step back. I think we're gonna see that in the playoffs. And what I mean by that, I know people are gonna say, "Oh, well, they lost in the first round last year." Like that was a fake first round exit. Like if they ran that series back, they would. If we ran the playoffs back, they'd be title favorites again. Like they were in a fine spot before the Giannis injury, and they got unlucky with the injury, and Miami shot 1,000,000,000%. Jimmy Butler got voted, yada yada. But I think it's gonna. I feel very confident that we're gonna head into the playoffs, and I'm just gonna be like, this Milwaukee team isn't gonna win a championship. Like I just don't see them winning a championship, but I could see them winning, 55 games just because Giannis is so good. And then the reason I think their regular season, I'm a little higher in their regular season than Stacy is because low-key, they have more depth than I thought they have. Like they go 9 deep with, Jay Crowder's still on the team, Bobby Portis is still on the team. They got Malik Beasley. None of these guys are like super exciting, but to play in the regular season, they're fine. Their starting lineup's going to be really good. Grayson Allen and Brook Lopez with their big 3. This will be a fine regular season team, even adjusting to a new head coach. It's the playoffs where I'm worried about them. So I'm going to go
playoffs. You want to talk about playoffs? So you heard it here first. We all think Giannis will be a Knick in 2025. So
I think there's a really good chance, actually. And I think it might be as soon as 2024.
Yeah, I think there's definitely a chance there.
Telling me there's a chance. All right.
Yeah, we'll see. You're going to be competing with every team in the league, so it's really not be tough. But anyway, all right. Next one, which I'm going to be honest, I have no fucking idea about this team. Not a single fucking shot, and anybody that tells you they do is lying. New Orleans Pelicans, 44.5. Juice is even both ways. I would bet if I had to bet on this, I would bet the over, but I will not be touching this line.
I would bet the over. They're a high variance team. They have the most high variance superstar. Yeah, I would call him a superstar when he's healthy. Most high variance superstar in the NBA in a lot of sports. They won 42 games last year. I think they do also have kind of on Geoff's theme of like having a lot of guys you're comfortable playing. They do have that. they have the picks to make a move. If Zion is healthy, there's a lot of upside there, because I do think at some point this year they'll make a move. I think that guys like I think CJ is getting a little bit long in the tooth. I'm not sure if I'd call him Boston Kemba yet, but I think that's the direction it's trending. But they just have a lot of talent and play. I actually have always been a fan of Valanciunas. And the Zion part of it just gives them so much. Like if Zion plays, I don't see this as not a 50-win team. And even without it, they were a 42-win team last year. I think Trey Murphy, there's a chance he takes a step. I'm pretty high on this team, while understanding, there's a lot of variance. So
I was expecting to say under, like I had under in my head, but Stacy made a really good argument for over. So I think I'm gonna just switch to over and just say Stacy gave a good answer. And the only thing I'll add is I just really like their trio of young guys on their team, and Dyson Daniels, Jordan Hawkins, and of course Trey Murphy. I think.
Well, let's see. Trey Murphy's already hurt.
Yeah, like seriously hurt?
I mean, I think he's out for he tore his meniscus or something, right? So,
oh Jesus,
I don't know if there's been an update on if he needs surgery or not. So we'll see. This team is just cursed. I don't know. This is what I'm saying. Like, I'd love if you told me I could even get 65 games. If I got 65 games from Zion and Ingram, you guarantee me that, I would take the over in a heartbeat. But who the fuck can tell you that? Like only God can tell you, and I doubt God gives a shit about the win total for the New Orleans Pelicans. But I just, this to me is just such a stay away line. I'm not touching this, but yeah, I agree with everything Stacy said. Like, you bet on the star talent if they're healthy, sure, but I'm not betting on Zion's health.
For people listening, from a betting standpoint, when you have volatile markets like this, it's better to bet long-term / longer odds than it is to bet flips, because betting flips is where the market will really expose you, because when something's minus 115, you need to be right 52% of the time or whatever for the bet to be plus EV. But if you're saying to yourself, if you're really high on the Pelicans, you're like, oh, I just know if they stay healthy, they could be really good. Just bet them to title, or bet them to win the West, because it's really hard to project what percentage of the time Zion's going to be healthy, what percentage of the time they're going to go over this win total. It's much easier to marry your belief in their ceiling with their title odds. So there you go. Gambling 101.
Yeah. All right. The next one here, which I actually skipped over. Thank you, Geoff, for opening my eyes. Minnesota Timberwolves, Lions 45.5. Juices even both ways. I think I'm over here, but I am over here, but there's another one I wouldn't bet this because I just despise Karl Anthony Towns. So if I had to invest in him for a full season and I don't feel strongly about it, I would not like it. So I would not do that. Also, it's just I thought they were going to be really good last year. They had they kind of had a season from hell, and they still made the playoffs, so good for them. They gave Denver a really good first round series. It logically to me, I'm like, well, Gobert and Cat should be better this year together, and everything kind of makes sense in my head. But I'm like, you look at the numbers, basically every lineup with Gobert was just not particularly good. Cat is, look, I know he's had some freak injury stuff, but he seems to be missing more time as the years have gone by. I don't know. His defense has never been inspiring. I don't see a reason why it should become inspiring all of a sudden. Again, the Cat Gobert combination was not good together last year, and they're going to be playing a shit ton of minutes together because they both make $700 bajillion. And I think people need to pump the brakes on it and Anthony Edwards a little bit. That's what I think. I think people need to pump the brakes. His FIBA was not good. For some reason, nobody wants to talk about this. He was not good in FIBA. Guy played like a fucking asshole in FIBA. He just chucked up bullshit. He got empowered by the coaching staff to do it, and that's what he did. And I'm not saying this because I don't believe in Anthony Edwards. I definitely do. I think he's going to be a scoring champion, probably multiple times at some point in his career. But he's not somebody that you can like. You cannot trust him to run an offense right now. Not saying that he's definitely going to have to, consider they have Mike Conley, but like, I just think a lot is being put on his shoulders. I think this hype train with him is a little bit out of control right now. And sometimes I know this is not really like necessarily affects what's on the court, but like I worry about that when I'm betting on teams like this. So I said over. I'm gonna take the under. I think this is an under, and I'm not gonna bet it either way. But I just don't like a lot of things going on with this team.
Yeah, I think I agree with most of what you said. I think there is probably I'm a little bit higher on potentially making the Gobert and Towns fit work. I think it was as bad as it could have been. They still won 42 games last year.
Yeah.
I still think Ant can be a lot better if he's engaged for a full season on defense, which I have reason to believe, just based on what he said, as he's getting into his prime, this is and I think that, I think you mentioned this before, Geoff, it's easy to get enamored with the young players. And I get that, but I think there's a difference between year one rookies versus year two versus year three and year four. And I think, yes, in FIBA, he's probably given too much leeway. But I still think this is a guy who can score at will. This is a guy who's probably at this point a little underrated as a playmaker. And when he's engaged is a really impactful defender. Put that together with, a guy who's still, as much as Gobert's lineups weren't great, this is still a very impactful rim protector. Cat creates a ton of space. I think probably in year two, you can expect Finch to be a little bit better in terms of the lineups he uses. And we haven't talked about Jaden McDaniels, but he's another Jalen, right?
It's Jaden. There is a Jalen McDaniels.
I always switch them.
Yeah.
Jalen is the one on Charlotte or Philly now.
Yeah.
Jaden, I think he's a very impactful player who could make it a leap himself. If not a leap, then I think he'll get better. So there's a lot of candidates for internal improvement. I think they will probably be better with the Cat Gobert chemistry there, even though I agree with you, Shwin, that there's probably a ceiling on how good that can actually be. So I'll take the over.
Yeah. I'm gonna go under. I don't like their front court at all. I think it sucks.
The Naz Reid thing is weird. Like, why did they? Sorry, it's keeping him. It's like, how many fucking cents? This is like a team investing like 3 straight first-round picks in fucking running backs or something.
The West is big, man.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like they're not getting enough hate, which is weird because I feel like everybody and their fucking sister is shitting all over the Gobert trade, but like they're completely capped out and screwed and have no assets. And they have 2 players who they probably see in their future in McDaniels and Edwards. Like they have not, that's it. And those are 2 good players to have, but like they can't win now and they have no path to putting good players next to Edwards and McDaniels for at least another few years. I think
not trading Cat this summer is going to be looked at in a year or 2 from now as like a massive error.
Yeah. I don't know. I think they're in a lot of trouble, and we're going to get to them a little bit later, but there's another team in their division that has an over-under that is less than theirs that I like a lot more. So, yeah.
I too like OKC's over.
Yeah.
All right. This is the one everybody's been waiting for. If you've sat through 2 hours and 20 minutes, we're finally here. The New York Knickerbockers, the line is 44.5. We talked about this on our prop bet pod. Like, I don't get this number at all. And this is like so I remember 2 years ago when we did this before the 2021-22 season, or when I did this, I was like, oh yeah, of course the Knicks are gonna be awesome. Like, in retrospect, I definitely did not appreciate that Kemba could be completely fucking cooked, and all this type of stuff.
Like Julius Randle regression too, right?
Yeah, the Julius Randle regression. But the biggest thing was like Tibbs didn't know his rotation. He didn't know his best players. He didn't know who they were. He knows who his best players are because they're so fucking obvious. Like it's insanely obvious who this team's 9 best players are. And it's also obvious who the 10th and 11th guy are if somebody gets hurt. Like, there's no ambiguity about this team. This is not a season. He's had basically 3 seasons in a row where he had to figure out, and God knows it took him longer than I think it should have taken. But like, he's figuring out which is his best team, what's his best lineup. This is easy. He figured it out last year. It's the same team, except they got rid of his least favorite player in the entire world and replaced him with somebody who probably is like fits every hallmark of a Tibbs player that he could ever want in DiVincenzo. So, and also DiVincenzo's a good player. So like, this team got better potentially, at least for how they play, by subbing out Obi and adding DiVincenzo. And I actually like that they're forcing a dynamic upon him that he wouldn't come to naturally, which is like we're going to play small for like 12 minutes every night when Julius is sitting. You don't have any way around this. That's what's going to happen. I like that they added that dynamic. I think this is a good team. And I think this team is like, if they don't go over on this, something has gone massively wrong. And maybe it's an injury.
If they go under on this, is that, sorry, go ahead. I think you might get
I was just going to say, I think maybe then somebody needs to get fired.
That's
exactly it's either a catastrophic injury or somebody needs to get fired. There's no other way that they should go under on this.
Yeah, I think there's really only one injury that would be catastrophic on this team, unless you have multiple.
Who I'm actually curious, Stacy. Who's the injury that would be catastrophic?
Yeah, I think Brunson would be catastrophic. I know.
No, it wouldn't.
You think Quickly would be?
No, I'm saying I don't think an injury. I don't think
you don't
we
think
have
catastrophic. I think in terms of so catastrophic in terms of getting to 40. If you told me Brunson was out for like half the season, yeah, I think 44 wins is in jeopardy there.
If Brunson, I'm sorry. If Brunson missed the first half of the season, the only thing that would change is Emmanuel Quickly would make the All-Star game. Like, that's it. Like,
okay.
we can talk about the playoffs later, but they'd be fine. They were better without Brunson on the court last year. Like, they were literally a year removed from them being better without Brunson on the court than on the court. Like,
yeah, I think there's a difference between like I think if you don't have Brunson in the playoffs, you're really in a bad spot. But like regular season, I'm not.
I think they would win.
Not saying I wouldn't be worried. It puts it more in jeopardy. But I don't like. I think they'd be really good. I think they'd be fine. And the other thing with this team is like, I cannot imagine. I don't think there's a chance RJ Barrett is as poor as he was last regular season. Like, I think he's gonna have a good season. Definitely a better regular season.
So he'll be a lot richer. But
yes, he'll also be richer and happier. But like, I think he's gonna have a better season. And unlike coming off the 2020-21 season where Randall shot 40% from 3, nothing about his performance that you would look at and be like, well, that can't last. No way. And maybe he's playing for a fucking next contract. Like, that's always a nice motivation for a player to have. And it's not like this is a guy that we need to worry about, like, oh, well, he hasn't been shooting a lot, and now he's playing up for a contract, so now he's going to really just start hijacking offense. That's his role, is fucking taking a lot of shots anyway, so he's fine. I think Brunson will be Brunson. Like, he's one of the most consistent players I think I've ever seen. And yeah, like, I think Quickly will be better. I think Grimes could be better, whether or not he's given the opportunities to really like leverage that into something. I don't know, but I think he'll be better. And like, look, we'll see. Like, we'll see how many minutes Deuce and stuff like that. Like, Deuce will probably be better too. Like, we have a lot of guys that will be better, or should be better, or at least should be the same. And yeah, I think this is like a ridiculously stupid line.
I think there should be an over. It's a lot of it is kind of, whether you want to call it Knicks bias or the fact that last time people were high on them, they regressed. I think the biggest thing is that there's no reason to believe Julius isn't going to be able to replicate what he did last year. I disagree with Geoff on how important Brunson is. I think not only do I not think Quickly is the kind of shot creator that Brunson is, I think when Quickly is going to be in the starting lineup, he is, against some teams at least, it is going to become him playing off of Randall. And I will say this, he's better at accentuating Randall than maybe even Brunson is because of how good he is off ball. But I will take the Brunson-led offense over that. And I think that.
But what about the defense? There's two sides.
Yeah, I think that the net result, if you don't believe the net result is negative, we should just fucking trade Jalen Brunson. That is.
I think you're asking the wrong person about that one.
Maybe we should trade Jalen Brunson, right, and make RJ point guard.
Sorry,
I just don't. Much more valuable player than that assessment would take into account. But I agree largely. Other than that, I agree largely. Like, this was a team that after the Hart trade was playing at, do you say 56-1 pace? Even after just removing Fournier and Rose from the lineup, they played at 53-1 pace. Why would you believe there's going to be regression? Nobody has gotten significantly better in the East. We'll see what happens in the Dame trade, but that's maybe 2 games more. They tanked at the end of the season. Like all of the things we've been talking about with these teams. Are there reasons to believe in regression? Not really. Nobody shot outlier well from any part of the floor. Are there candidates for internal improvement? Yes. RJ, quickly. I think Mitch is still in maybe incremental. I don't know if he's ever going to shoot free throws well, but he's still only 24. McBride, to your point. Grimes, obviously. Grimes maybe has the biggest potential for a leap just given his age and where he's at in his contract. So there's just nothing.
Even Brunson can get better. Like, I don't think Randall can from an impact standpoint, but I think Brunson can.
Yeah, I think Brunson can take a lot more pull-up threes. So, there's nothing that points to me to slam. That's why, that's why all these articles are like the Knicks are bound to regress. It just seems like, well, this is what the Knicks do, and how good can you trust Randall? But it's not. It's based on it's based on these narratives, and it's based on kind of intangible facts. When if you look at what it is. Randall just took more shots at the rim. He shot 34% from 3. There's no reason to believe he can't do that again. Yep. He shot 40% from mid-range. No reason he can't do that again. Maybe he shoots a little bit worse at the rim. He shot 66%. But that's what he was doing in LA and New Orleans. So, and that it's not just him. It's there's no one who really played so above their head that you would count on them for regression, but you have a lot of candidates for improvement. So you're betting, if you're taking the under, you're betting that Randall or Brunson or Hart or Quickly or Mitch and Hart, I think, even if Mitch misses time, I think they can hold up. And I think the last thing I'll say is this. Yeah, let me just continue since I'm already on this side. They replaced a bad defender with a really good one who played on a championship level team. So yeah, I think Dante versus Obi is going to help them as well.
So I agree with you both. I'm over. I don't think that's too interesting. I think the most detrimental loss to the team by far would be Julius Randle. That's why I was pushing back to that. I think that would hurt the team way more than losing Brunson. Like, not even close. Like, not like just
right? Because of the depth, probably, right?
Yeah, because of the roster setup. Like, I just think that Quickly is a much better candidate to replace Brunson than anybody else we have to replace Randle. And like, God, who even knows what Tibbs would do if Randall got hurt? Like, Jericho Sims would play 30 minutes a game at the 4 or something like that. Like,
you know what? That's a good point.
At least without Brunson, like, he's just like, hey, Emmanuel, you know how you played 19 minutes last night? Go play 54 minutes. Like, at least that is a good thing. I am curious. Do you guys think he just comes out of the gate 9-man rotation, or does he do what he did last year, start with a 10 and need to? You think we're just starting 9?
I think we're going 9. I think we have everyone who's there is. I think he'll probably. I don't think he's probably happy about Hart being the backup 4. I don't think he's going to trust Isaiah Roby or Jacob Toppin. The last
Sims?
time or
Sims?
I don't think so.
I don't think
the money is going to guide this decision.
He loves Hart enough to do that, and this is, by the way, to Shwin's point. There are a lot of guys that either need to get paid or got paid that need minutes. Playing Hart at the 4 opens up minutes for Quickly. It opens up obviously minutes for Hart. It opens up minutes for Grimes, DiVincenzo. So it's very difficult to make an argument that they haven't constructed the roster with that in mind. And I think Tibbs is probably on board at this point.
Yeah, and if Tibbs doesn't like that, he can go fuck himself, as far as I'm concerned.
If there's a sim where we start with a 10-man rotation where like Sims or Roby gets power forward minutes, I need to peek in there and see Shwin's reaction to it. That's all I'll say.
It would be so stupid. All right, let's hope that doesn't happen. Okay, next one, OKC, 44.5. Jeff, I'll let you go, but I think we're both very much over on this.
Yeah.
Oh, by
super
the way,
high.
I should mention this real quick. The juice on the Knicks is heavy on the over, -130. So
I really like the over for OKC. I think their division, aside from Denver, is kind of theirs for like I think they're the second best team. I think they're better than Minnesota. I think everything that people talked about with Edwards, they should have actually been talking about with SGA. Like SGA was actually the star of FIBA.
and he got better as the tournament. Like I did not like how he's playing in the beginning, and then you could see as he's getting more comfortable, his play improved throughout the tournament.
I agree. I think they have depth. I'm really excited to see how they use Chet Holmgren. I really like their coach. I just like everything about their team. I'm really excited to see how much they use Holmgren at the 5 specifically. I've heard a lot of people say that like they think he's going to play more power forward, but I can't imagine that's why they drafted him. Like even more so than Evan Mobley. Like I feel like he has to be a center. But I'm open to being wrong about that. But if he can play center, the idea of SGA, Isaiah Joe, Giddey, Jalen Williams, and Holmgren, like, dude, just I don't need anything else. I'll just watch that lineup like forever. That just sounds so great to me. Not even from like they're gonna win a title right now. Just that would just entertain the shit out of me. I think Isaiah Joe is really good and really underrated. He also probably is due for negative regression from shooting. He got voted from 3 last season. Yeah,
he's had a track record of being an incredible shooter.
Yeah, that's fair.
But I do agree with your larger point that some regression is probably going to happen.
Yeah. I don't love their depth, but I also think they're young enough that if they're healthy, and I don't think their depth is going to hurt them. And Shwin said on a recent pod, it's time for them. Like this is they don't have an excuse anymore to like be good and just be like, oh, we're gonna try to stash another pick. Like no, it's if they want SGA there long term, which I assume they do, it's time for them to make some noise. And especially with this Woj report, like there is candidate to try and be in on those trade markets with all their assets that they've accumulated. That's the only way they're going to get a legit co-star next to SGA. They want to look appealing to someone like Giannis or even Embiid, guys who don't really seem to care about the market they play in and just want to go to a place where they can consistently win. Yeah, I really like OKC this year, and I'm excited to watch them play.
Yeah, I think there's a little more. I still haven't seen him do it, so there's some skepticism there. But I think at this point, you bet on SGA. I really like what Shwin said about how he figured it out as the tournament went along. That's been a theme for SGA throughout his career. People forget this. He was, by Kentucky standards, he was a little bit lower. He was a 4-star recruit, which he's a high 4-star. So at most schools, that means you're going to start as a freshman. At Kentucky, that means you might have to transfer. Then he started off the bench and he came through, and to 99% of people, besides apparently Scott Perry, he was the best prospect on that Kentucky team. And that's coming from a guy coming off the bench on obviously a loaded roster. And I think that just speaks to, how great he is. I think they have a lot of interesting ways they can go. And I think that's why I'm a little bit skeptical. It's not even skeptical. It's like, okay, but I think to your point, Geoff, like the amount of great options they have, going with kind of Giddey and Holmgren, what is Chet going to be? There's so many. I think ultimately the number of upside options is much higher than like the kind of downside things. I do worry, can they figure it all out? But I think what gives you kind of the foundation is that Shea is just that good. So I would go over, but I do think there's some variance here.
I think if this is not an over, then something has gone wrong there. This is a team that has a lot of young talent that is all improving or should be improving. Jalen Williams was great for a rookie last year, like actually good as an NBA player for a rookie. SGA was really, really good, obviously. First team All NBA.
Is Jalen, real quick, I know you've been a fan of Jalen Williams. Is his how good he has been, is that enough to make you wish they either salary dumped someone instead of the Brunson trade, or do you kind of regret not getting Brunson, but the way that went about? Does that make you more critical of that, seeing how good Jalen Williams has been?
Yeah, of course. Like Jalen Williams is really good. I liked him before the draft. I even said that I thought he could be a top 5
You said
player
it
from
in
the
this
draft.
pod a bunch, yeah.
Yeah, like I was a really big fan. So yeah, sure, I regret it. Like, is it a catastrophic error? No, because like you didn't salary dump him to fucking like sign DeJounte Murray, who I don't really think is that good of a player. Like I think he's fine, but I don't think he's very impactful. Like I think Brunson is clearly a higher level. And so like, is there some regret? Sure, but look, every NBA team has shit that they regret. Like guess who traded us the Emmanuel Quickly pick to move up for fucking Poku? I'll give you one guess. It was not.
Presto.
Yeah, it was OKC. So like every team makes deals that they regret and probably didn't get the ideal value for. So no, I mean, of course, yeah, I regret it, but I don't think it's a catastrophic error. And if Jalen Williams ends up being like a perennial all-star, then we fucked up. But like, guess what? A lot of teams fucked up then. Like he went 12th. They took Usman Jang over him. So like this is not exactly a case of like, oh, like Presti got his guy, he was targeting him the whole way or something. Like I think it's a little bit more complex than that. But yeah, it's over for me. Again, like I don't know much about Chet, but like what I've seen and what I've heard, it seems like he's going to be a good player. How fast that happens, I don't know. But like there were also reports that SGA is done tanking, and they kind of like know that. So I think they're going to be walking into the season with the clear like directive
mandate.
to just like, yeah, not even a mandate, but just like, hey, look, like we're just trying to win games now. We're not trying to do anything else. And we'll see. Kason Wallace, I like him as his profile. How
Kentucky guards of that mold have done pretty well. I do think he would have been a parent pick if we didn't have a million fucking guards. So
yeah, I mean, he might have been a parent pick anyway, because I don't think that seems to influence what parent does. But yeah, I'm very, very in on the over here. All right, next team. I think you guys will be surprised by this one. Orlando Magic. They are at 36.5. This is getting a shit ton of action in the over, minus 145. The under is plus 115. I think I love the under here.
Yeah.
I did not like their offseason. I think their guard play still sucks. They still don't have enough shooting around Paolo and Franz. And Anthony Black might be good one day, but he's not going to be that good this upcoming season. And like, unlike OKC doesn't need Kason Wallace to be good. Like, they don't need him to be good next season to be good themselves. I think Orlando needs Anthony Black to actually be good to have a chance of being like a play-in team. And
but they have some good guards. They have Fultz and Anthony, who I think are solid players, and they have
Markelle Fultz cannot shoot. He's irrelevant.
But he's a plus NBA player. You don't think that is?
But not for their team. Like I don't like what they did this offseason.
So it's more. It's not the fact that the guards suck. It's just poor roster.
The guards don't like we know what their guards are, and we know what they are with those guards. So let's be honest about Paolo. The guy finished last year 52 shooting, something like that. Like he was not
as a rookie,
good.
But
yeah, but right, okay, that's fine. But like he was not good after his start to the season. He actually finished the season pretty poorly. And like that's not a concern for me long term. But in the lens of this upcoming season, I think it's possible he has a bad season. And I think it's possible people are going to be like, oh my God, this guy's a bust. He sucks. And I don't think that's true, but I think it's very possible. Like he did not look good in FIBA. His unwillingness to take jump shots is a massive fucking problem. And I think teams now, and I think you already saw this last year, teams became a lot more well-disciplined defending him because they know he doesn't want to shoot. He just wants to go
a little bit like Scotty Barnes.
I feel like the shot when he actually shoots it looks way better.
But I mean, but Scotty Barnes had a really good rookie year, but as teams,
yeah. In that sense, agree. Yeah, I think so. I think it could look like that, and I still believe in his talent way more than Scotty long term. But like I think me and Geoff talked about this once too, where it's like you saw Kerr try him at the 5, and obviously that didn't work as we all know. But like it's something that feels like it should be an option in his future, and maybe even something that they should try out a little bit right now. But their front court is pretty stacked. Like they don't really have the opportunity to play him there.
Sounds pretty familiar.
This roster just feels it feels like they didn't like. I think they missed an opportunity. Is really what I think. Like I thought Houston got kind of killed for that Fred VanVleet contract, but once the full details came out, where it was basically like it's a 2-year deal with a 3rd-year team option, I was like, all right, that's a good deal. Like I think Orlando should have been all over stuff, like all over a deal like that for Fred VanVleet, and instead they signed Joe Ingles, like who's fucking 7,000 years old and can't move, and it's like, who is he playing over in your rotation? What is he doing for you? Like I'm just out on this team for this year. Like I still love the talent of Franz. And I think Paolo is a really, really dynamic player. And maybe Anthony Black can be good. And I like Wendell Carter Jr. Like, I like some of these pieces. Don't like it for this year. And I think people are going way, like, I'm, like, actually annoyed by what they did in the offseason because with good moves, I would have been definitely taking them to, like, make the playoffs, play in, whatever. And I just did not happen.
I don't think enough people realize how much better Franz is than Paolo right now. And it kind of annoys me. It's like they're always paired together as these like two like, oh, they're both gonna be really good. They could be all-stars one day. It's like, dude, Franz is already really good. He's by far the best player on their team. The difference in their net differences was over 15 points per 100. Like,
which is insane because they play so much together.
Right. Paolo was to highlight your point, Paolo was the only player on the Magic whose off minutes they won. He had the worst off net rating on the team. Franz had the best off net rating on the team by double the second best. They were negative 9.1 per 100 in all the minutes Franz sat. So there's 10 points right there. And then they relatively crushed the minutes Franz played. They won their minutes. He's one of the only players they won, and they didn't do well in the Paolo minutes at all. Paolo can be great down the road. I'm not saying he's 20. Like, let's give him some time to be great. The idea that he's better than Julius Randle, give me a fucking break. Like, that's one of the dumbest.
That was the most ridiculous. He's a poor man's Julius Randle right now. He's not better on defense, and he's just a less efficient version of him. That was just insane, that ranking. But sorry, go ahead.
Preposterous. No, I'm gonna finish up here. Like, I agree with everything Shwin said, especially about their guard play. And like, it pisses me off that they took Jalen Suggs, which was a great draft pick. I stand by that, and have basically already given up on him. Like,
100%, right.
And Suggs is like almost doing the Quickly thing where like his team doesn't believe in him, and he's still improving in the areas they're asking him to improve. Like, he had a quiet, great defensive season last year. He's a freaking hawk on and off the ball. He fights over screens. And they're just like, yeah, sorry, we don't see you as an initiator. So you're just going to be out there with bench minutes and please defend, please keep it. Like, dude, fuck that. Like, he should be their starting guard, and they should be willing to live through the lumps and bruises. He has by far the highest ceiling of any guard in their team right now. I'll admit I don't know a lot about Anthony Black, but dude, the Cole Anthony, Markelle Fultz thing, I couldn't be more out. I don't get people who love the like they're not top 20 top 20 point guards in the NBA.
I actually like Cole Anthony. Like, I think he's developed into a nice player, but he's not the player they need to help them take them over the top. Like,
I mean, Fultz is like a DeLon Wright type, right? Like, I think he's a good player in that.
Yeah, mold. But he's not still not a point guard.
But on this,
but I think what Stacy's saying is more like he's from a quality perspective. He's like a DeLon Wright type, and I agree with Stacy a lot there. I think Cole Anthony's a nice player. But you want him as like a 6-man, just help the team in his minutes, not in a taking minutes from Jalen Suggs because he's quote unquote better right now. That makes no sense for them at all.
By the way, Cole Anthony last year, 57 true shooting, nice little season for him. I think he's a guy like a team that needs guard help. Orlando's not going to pay him. I'd be really surprised if they pay him. I'd be trying to. He's a guy to be interested in poaching from them potentially.
Especially if and when we make a star trade. But because some of the guards are going to go, some of them. I think I am higher on the guards. I like Markelle Fultz quite a bit. I think he's a good player. I think to your point, though, I think it's more about the roster fit. I agree 100% with you guys on Franz. Franz was a guy who, to me, was a guy I valued a little bit higher than a lot of the draft Twitter because his box plus minus was just insane. And if you watch those teams, and if you watch how Michigan has regressed since he's left, I mean, people blame Juwan Howard and all that. They had Hunter Dickinson, who everyone swore was the best player on that team, but he's a defensive liability. Franz really held that team together. His off ball and his awareness on defense, it's everything you thought guys like Devin Vassell would be. He is a phenomenal defender. I think all NBA defense is in his future. I think he's made strides as shot creator. His 3-point shooting has really gotten to what you thought it was when he was in high school. Had an injury to his arm, which I think depressed his value a little bit. But I think that guy's gonna be great. Can he be a number one option? I don't know, but he has all the skills to do it. We'll see if the kind of athleticism and that, as good as it is with his length, is enough. But I'm going to take the under 36. A lot of wins. They have talent. Even the guards, I like their talent a lot. I agree 100% on everything Geoff said about Suggs. And I think more than just kind of the prioritization, the strategy, I will say this: there's a lot of Knicks fans, and this kind of was my thought at one point. Just keep drafting as many young players and lottery tickets as you can, and accumulate that talent. And the thing is, you can't keep all those guys. OKC is going through this a little bit too. I saw people who said maybe they'll have to drop Isaiah Joe. I think they're not going to do that, but there are probably going to be a couple of talented players from OKC who get squeezed, and that's kind of what's happening in Orlando right now to Suggs, and to some of their players. So I'm going to take the under. I think they need a consolidation trade or they need some kind of a move to make things fit a little bit better. When that happens, I think they can be scary good because I really do like Franz and Paolo. I think Cole is a really good. I think he's the guy who can who can be a starter as a third option or come off the bench. I think he fits well next to those. They probably want. I don't even think they need a stretch five or anything. They just need. I think Carter's good there. They just need a little bit more spacing there. At the 2 guard, and I think they could be really good. So I'm going to take the under for now.
You brought up Franz as a primary option. I just want to say, obviously that raises his ceiling if he's able to do that. But the fact that right now he's already able to maximize his impact without getting in the way of another high usage option is incredibly valuable in and of itself, and not enough people recognize that, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, you don't want to just go with a Euro comp, but it's tough not to think of a guy like Andrei Kirilenko, who's like just the pre-international feel on defense, the ability to do everything. So I think he's an immensely valuable. Iguodala's in that mold. I guess Franz is 6'10". It's a very he probably should have gone top 3 in that draft. So
yeah. Did you say under or over, Stacy?
Under. 36 is the high number ultimately, and the roster fit isn't great still.
I just think the East is good. I just like way more teams in the East than them for this upcoming season. But yeah, look, you're gonna get.
You're back in the Matrix, Shwin.
Yeah, I can never tell if it's just me or you.
Yeah, it's just. I don't think Embiid cares about the regular season as much anymore because he got his fake MVP. I think that Harden, who the hell knows what he's going to be up to, if he's even going to be there, which introduces an entire other element of downside risk. And then, I like Maxey. I don't believe Maxey is the guy to just Harden's gone, just let me get the rock, and now I can run the offense for us. I don't know. I also like Nick Nurse with this team. It feels very weird. Nick Nurse with Joel Embiid, it seems potentially disastrous. And look, do we think that Embiid is totally going to be there mentally if they trade Harden at some point or whatever? I don't know. This team just feels really fucked up, and I think this could be a bad season for them. So I'd go under here.
Yeah, I've said it a bunch. I think this is a ticking time bomb. Is Embiid going to be there mentally? It's always a bet if Embiid's going to be there physically with injuries. So, and in terms of some of the other players besides Maxey, they don't have a ton of young talent. I like some of their players a lot. I love DeAnthony Melton. That's a guy I'd love to poach. But I'm going to take the under.
Geoff?
You're on
Geoff,
mute,
you're on
Jeff.
mute.
Let's try this again. Yep, under. I'm with you guys. I agree with everything you said. I don't like their depth at all. I think their lone path to going over is Maxey becoming like an fringe all-star level player. I don't think that happens close to 50% of the time. I do think it's live though. I don't love the Oubre acquisition, but I think it's a volatile acquisition. Like it could just randomly work out really well, but I think that would come to fruition more in the playoffs than it does in the regular season. So yeah, just as far as like laying vig for them to win 50 plus games, I don't think they're over 50% to win 50 games this season.
Yeah, I don't see it. So you're saying under also then, Geoff? Or something?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, next one. Phoenix, 1.5. This is juices even either way. I'm under on this, and I just don't like the injury risk here. I really am. I'm so happy that we got away from like the first week of free agency when all we had to hear about was like, oh my God, Phoenix did such a good job getting minimum guys, and they're all young and they're upside. And it's like, dude, they're fucking minimum guys, man. Shut the fuck up. Like, if they're lucky, 3 of those guys will be like rotation players. I thought giving away campaign when you're this far over the cap was pretty weird. I didn't really understand that. They've got this Ayton thing, which like I don't know what's gonna happen. Like if he's still there, like he's a 4th option on that team. Like he totally cratered last year. Like it was bizarre watching him last year.
And I'm sorry, Shwin. I just want to jump in right there. Remember, he's not a 4th option like he was last year. Him and Chris Paul had amazing chemistry, and Chris Paul got him to spots where nobody's capable of. They ran a beautiful pick and roll. So Aiden was the 4th option from like a usage standpoint, but he was getting touches very consistently. Bradley Beal is not that type of passer. He's going to be a much more true 4th option this season, reliant on offensive rebounds and rare, like, oh, okay, it's your turn possessions. And I think the window for a pure, like, he's just unhappy with this and wants out is much wider.
Oh, yeah. This could be like, he could totally check out. Like, if you thought he was checked out last year, you ain't seen nothing yet. Like, it could be bad.
Yeah, I think it's a tough one. I'm going to go under because I think this is a much more dangerous play. I will say this. I think Beal is going to play more games next year than he has the last few in Washington. I cannot trust KD's health at this point. Obviously, when he plays, I mean, when at full health, that is not a team anybody wants to face. But it's also worth noting, we haven't talked. Devin Booker played 53 games last year. I love Devin Booker. He's a top 10 player, easy.
He misses his time.
But he's had his own issues, and they rely on him for a lot, and they're going to rely on him for a lot, especially when KD inevitably misses time. So I would take the under here. It's not something I'm super confident in. I think they're going to be in that 49-50 win range. Do think if they're healthy, they have as good a chance as anyone in the West to win. I do think Booker is the kind of guy who can be the best player on a championship team. And by the way, if they win the championship next year, I do think he will be the best player on that team. But I tend to agree with you guys. I'd probably go under.
Yeah, Booker has become almost underrated by, like, his defense was good last season. His passing's gotten good. He's the type of player that you can put next to a Kevin Durant and he'll move off ball. I don't know. I'm not going to say he's the opposite of Trae Young, but he does, like, I'd imagine that there are Trae Young fans who are like, oh, they're both really good offensive players. And it's like, well, no, stylistically, Devin Booker is actually much more compatible with other good players, which makes him immensely more valuable. Booker's awesome, and I'll be honest, I didn't realize he only played 53 games last season. I was going to say slam dunk under. That makes me a little bit less confident. I'm going to stay under.
Because you think he would play over, and then that would improve. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. No, I didn't realize. No, I'm just saying I didn't realize he missed so few games or missed so many games. So yeah, I'm sticking with the under though. I think they're all about winning a championship. I think they're going to want to get Durant to the playoffs. I don't love their depth, but, like, of course you don't when you have 4 max guys. Like, it's really hard to have depth. But like Shwin said, the whole, like, Oh my God, they got fucking Drew Eubanks, and like it was ridiculous to listen to. They got Keita Bates Diop, which
I
people
love
only
what
love
they
these guys
did.
because they were Spurs. Like that's the
Yeah.
only reason they love these guys. Well,
I
Eubanks was
love what they did, and they're so smart. It's like,
yeah. Yeah, I'm
If
under.
they got Cam Reddish under Durant's tutelage, though,
That's
he would have been.
yeah. I mean, I can't believe we didn't even mention him in our Lakers conversation. What a stud pickup that was. How I think he's a guy. I think LeBron plays them for like 10 games, and he's just gonna give. Like he's just
All
gonna
right.
look over the bench. Like no, like we're good here. We're done.
It's like when they play the Oscars music when the speech goes on too long. LeBron's gonna start doing that after 10 games.
All right. We're almost done, guys. We have 5 left. It's only been 3. Let's see if we can finish this under football game time.
We really did a Bollywood movie this time.
Sacramento 44.5.
41.5.
44.5. No, you're alive, and we can hear you too. 44.5. That is an easy over for me. Look, this team has some flaws in the playoffs in terms of defense. That is a very difficult offensive team to stop. I think that I think that there's room for improvement. I think Shwin has been banging this drum all offseason. There's room for Chris Murray to really improve. He was already a really good player.
Keegan.
Keegan.
Sorry, Keegan. Chris got drafted this year. I'm slamming that over. I think the 47-48 is probably more where I'd have it. So
the only thing that I'll say about them is I don't love their depth. Me and Shwin talked about recently on Discord. Depth is becoming more and more important than it's ever been. Like and maybe this matters more for the playoffs, but like the league is so smart and there's so much information that if you have anything to exploit, they're going to know very quickly. Like other teams are going to know very quickly. I do love their starting 5. I agree with you that Keegan Murray has a leap or two in him. Malik Monk was awesome last year. That was a great pickup by them. But like outside of their starting 5 and Malik Monk, I don't really trust anybody else on their team. I guess Trey Lyles, maybe I trust him as like a backup stretch big, maybe a little bit. But yeah, despite that, 44.5 is too low. So give me that over.
Yeah, I'm pretty big on this team. I think Fox probably regresses a little bit from the field just because he shot an insane, like his shooting numbers last year from every range were insane. But like even then, I think
he was like 32%. But yeah, like floater range, it was just I think he didn't finish that high from 3-point range.
Maybe, but like I think the impact is going to be there. I like Malik Monk still being there. I know that they kept Trey Lyles. I like they added this European guy. I forget his name, Vezenkov, who I think was like the EuroLeague MVP last year. So that's a nice little pickup for them. I think he plays like he's one of those tweener forward types, the classic Euro forward. So I think could be a nice pickup for them. We will see what they. Yeah, like I think he could be a nice little pickup for them. And like I think it's okay to run it back in their situation. Like it's fine. I don't think they had a better move available to them really. And so yeah, bringing the crew back and adding Vezenkov is like they basically did what the Knicks did, except we got DiVincenzo and they got Vezenkov. And also like I think getting Duarte, like that's a nice little buy low for them. If he doesn't pan out, who cares? If he does, like they have
he's
a wing,
perfect fit
and
for
their
their system,
wing
right?
rotation last year was kind of thin. So it's a good pickup.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, he is. And I'm over on the team. I think that's pretty comfortable. I don't think last year was a fluke, so rooting for them. Spurs 29.5. The under is getting the action here. Minus 130 on the under. Over is plus 100. I'm under on Spurs. I think this team is not going to be good. I think people are a little bit too hyped with like, oh, they won the draft and they won the offseason and all this shit. And it's like, maybe they did, but I don't think it's going to matter for this upcoming season. I think they're going to be pretty bad. And even if Wemby is as impactful a defender as a lot of people think he can be from day one, nobody else on that team is playing defense other than like Sohan. Like Malachi Branham is not playing defense.
Keldon Johnson?
Keldon Johnson has not played defense since he got in the NBA. Neither has Devin Vassell, sadly. I was like really, really high on him as a defensive prospect, and he's just not been very good on that end. I do like Trey Jones, but like also it's Trey Jones. Like we don't. I can like him, and he doesn't make him some huge needle moving piece. But yeah, I think this team is like they're fine. They're doing. Their plan makes sense, but their plan probably does not entitle them to many wins this upcoming season.
I would go over here. They won 22 games last year. I think Keldon missed quite a bit of time. I do think I agree people probably over-index on rookies. The one area that a 7'5" guy with an insane wingspan can have an immediate impact. We've seen this going back to Kristaps. Kristaps was very imperfect as a rookie, but he was very impactful as a rim protector. I do think that kind of rim protection is the kind of difference that can give you 7 wins. In addition to the fact that you have candidates for improvement and so on. For the same reasons you just said with Vassell, he hasn't played defense. I am curious. I mean, there's a reason, like the guy you said is the best defender in the NBA right now, right? When healthy is Anthony Davis. I would agree with that. You said arguably, but I would agree with that. He wasn't a great defender his first couple of years. Partly because of the kind of environment he was in. But Vassell in an environment where I think they will have the directive now, especially if Pop is getting older, they're probably going to try to win games. And I think between Wemby, between maybe Sohan taking another step, like I think there's some decent defensive synergy there. They're going to be tough to score on. If that kind of inspires guys like Vassell and Keldon to step it up on defense, I think that could be better. On offense, I still think they're going to be a shit show. I think Wemby is he's further along as a shooter than like Mobley was, but he's probably not going to be more than a fake shooter right now. But I think they could be really good on defense. And I think, you give Popovich a piece like Wemby, you bet on some continued improvement for some of their young guys, even a guy like Branham, who I was pretty high on last year. I'm going to take the over.
I'm going with the under. I thought Shwin summed it up perfectly when he was like, yeah, like I can like them, but that doesn't mean they're going to like win a lot of games. I feel that way about almost their entire starting lineup. Like Trey Jones, Devin Vassell, Keldon Johnson, Sohan, and Wemby is just going to be fun to watch. Like from a profile standpoint, they fit together. They're all in their own individual own right, like interesting young players, and like any one of them could pop or make a mini leap.
Pop. But I see what you did there.
Yeah. But at the end of the day, they have almost no bench. And that matters for winning games this season. And I think they're just going to be one of those teams that is going to get to, February or March and is like, all right, like we gave it our best, on to the next one. And then that says nothing of potential Wemby injury / shutdown, which obviously is very, very live.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, I also think, that's the other thing. They're going to be definitely annoyingly safe with Wemby, which will probably hurt them in the wins. All right, 3 more. Toronto Raptors, our favorite team here. 36.5 is in line. They're minus 130 in the under. The over is getting plus 100, so more action on the under here. I will go under. I think they are in the best division in basketball, potentially. And they are the worst team in that division.
That's so fun to say, isn't it?
It is fun to say. It's really nice to say that. Their best point guard is Dennis Schroeder, and it's no longer FIBA. So I don't know.
What about Scotty
Barnes? Help them too much. Scotty Barnes sucks at basketball, so that's not good for them. He doesn't fit well with Siakam. They didn't address any of their needs as far as adding shooting, unless you're a believer in Grady Dick immediately impacting them, which I don't. and that's not because I don't like Grady Dick. It's
I
merely
believe in
because-
the impact of the Dick, personally.
Yes, I believe you do. But like I just I don't really like anything about how this team is constructed, and they lost Van Vliet, who was probably their most impactful positive player last year, and you replace him with Schroeder, who look, I'm happy he had his moment in FIBA, but that guy's not been a good NBA player, or at least a good starting NBA player for a while. So yeah, I'm taking the under here.
I'm actually as much as I love to shit on the Raptors, I am going to go over. I actually think Barnes will have a bounce back year. I think losing Van Vliet is enough to say that 5-win difference between what they won last year, 41, and what they could win. That is that impactful, and I do think the Knicks are better than the team that the Raptors faced early in the season last year. But I think also they're in the best division of basketball, and one of those teams I think is set to implode. I think they have some shooting, they have length. I'm going to take the over on 36.
Yeah, I don't love their team, and I don't think they have much of a direction long term. I think they're going to lose OG for nothing because Masai is weird and thought like there were teams offering multiple firsts for him, and he was just like, no. I really liked the Pirtle acquisition last season. The impact data is kind of staggering, actually. They were over 13 points per 100 better when he played than when he didn't. They were plus 9 per 100 when he was on the court. Like, he was just really good in his 20 so odd games in Toronto. I have no idea what the direction of this franchise is. I don't think they can win a championship or compete. If I was a Raptors fan, I would not be thrilled or excited to watch this season, but I do think they're going to win more than 36 games. And I think as an opponent, as a fan of a team that has to play them 4 times, I'm never once going to be excited to face them. And feel like, I don't know. You know what's funny, Shwin? They do the thing that you were asking for earlier on this pod. Like, they're like, okay, go ahead and call 30 fouls. Like, you're not going to. Yeah. They foul on every single possession, and
it's
they're
like the Seahawks defense, right? Back in the day with the lead.
Right.
Yeah. You're not going to call pass interference on every play, so.
Yeah, I mean, Nick Nurse is gone, so maybe they'll be less torturous to watch. But yeah, I don't enjoy watching the stylings of the Toronto Raptors, and I will be hopefully not watching much of them this next year. All right, Utah, 35.5. I have the under here. The under is actually paying out. It's plus 100. The over is at minus 130. I think I don't like the John Collins edition, which I don't like it in terms of what it does to them on the floor this year. I think as far as where they are in their team building and what the purpose of that trade is, I get it, and I'm fine with that. But for the purposes of winning basketball games this year, I don't like it. I also think they're overrated because of how they started last year. I've talked about this a bunch. They started 10-4, and then they went 27 and 41 after that. I suspect that the way they played and all that stuff, teams were not prepared for it. And so when they came out the way they did start last year, it took time for the league to catch up. But then I think the league caught up. And then on top of that, they got rid of their ball handling guard in Mike Conley and replaced him with Taylor Horton Tucker, who sucks ass. And Colin Sexton is their other point guard, who is totally misprofiled as a point guard. I don't like the ball handling on this team. I don't think they're going to be they're going to play Jordan Clarkson point guard minutes for real. Are we really doing this? I don't know. I think this team is, and the other part is, I think this is a team that could see more trade outs. I think Danny Ainge definitely might trade Jordan Clarkson this year. I actually would be surprised if he doesn't. I could see him trading Sexton. I could see him trading any of these dudes other than Lauri Markkanen and Walker Kessler. I think are liable to be traded and traded to accumulate more assets and be worse this season. So I'm on the under here. I think they trended the wrong way after a nice start last year, and that larger sample means a lot more to me than how they started. And it means more to me than the fact they won 37 games last year.
Yeah, I would agree. I think I would go under. I think I agree with pretty much everything you said. The other thing I'll ask you is, do you think Lowry could regress at all, or?
Yeah, I think that's possible. He shot like crazy last year, so I think he's legit good, but I think he could regress. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, so add in all of that, and that they're probably not prioritizing winning the same way. I would take the under as well.
Yeah, I'm on the under. Literally, the only thing I can add is I actually would go a step further than you, Shwin, and I think that the John Collins thing is not good on the court this year, and it blocks Taylor Hendricks. That sucks. Like they already have bigs who are going to block Taylor Hendricks. They have Olynyk still. They have Walker Kessler, obviously, who they're super excited about, and now they're adding a pure power forward who's just going to block Taylor Hendricks. Like they just took Keontae George 16th overall, and they've got Agbaji, and they've got Horton Tucker, and they've got Sexton, they've got Clarkson. Like I don't really love them trying to have their feet on both sides of the road. I think that very quickly they're going to realize, okay, here are the guys we want to play the most, and that's going to be Lowry, it's going to be Kessler, it's going to be Agbaji, it's going to be Keontae George, and it's going to be Taylor Hendricks. And I think when they realize that, they'll just start losing games, which they'll be fine with. This is one of my 5 favorite lines, especially since more of the money seems on the over, which is surprising to me. Getting 35.5, under 35.5 at even money, I would feel very confident betting that, to be honest.
Yeah, I think this is a nice under. Did you say over, Stacy, or did you say under?
Under. Yeah, I think we all agree.
All right. Last one. Wow. We finally did it, guys. All right. The Washington Wizards line is at 24.5. The juice is even on both ends at minus 115. I'm going over here. I kind of like, not that they're good, but I kind of like the things they did in the offseason.
You're a Jordan Poole fan, then?
I like that they cornered the market on fucking like backup guards. So I'm probably going to trade a couple of these. Yeah, my I don't know what's going on the internet, but like, yeah, I just like the over here. I think I like them getting Tyus Jones. That's a good pickup. They needed some steady ball handling. They have steady ball handling now. I like taking a shot on Jordan Poole. This is like a guy that, yeah, he's got a lot of flaws, but you suck. You should probably take an upside play on this guy. Like this is fine. You're not doing anything this year. Kyle Kuzma's a good player. They brought him back. That's fine. Daniel Gafford's a good player. Like, is he just good? I don't know. I think they'll be feisty. I think they'll be competitive, and I think they'll win like 26, 27 games. But they're not going to be a good team. I just think they'll be better than 24.5.
That is a low number. I do think they're going to be hot ass. Geoff said this about the West, and I think it applies here. The East has a lot of good teams too. We can shit on Toronto as much as we want. They are probably an order of magnitude better than Washington. Somebody's got to lose teams in the East. As much as I think the only competition Washington has for last place in the East is Detroit. I liked what they did. I also think besides Gafford, they don't really have any. I mean, Kuzma's a solid defender. They're going to be bad on defense. They lost Beal and Porzingis from a team that won 35 games last year. Maybe Poole goes off. I think also if you're asking him to be the guy, which they probably will be at a lot of times, I don't think that that's going to lead to wins. As much as to Shwin's point, I agree that it's probably the right kind of move for them to make and the right kind of swings they're taking. I don't think from a direction standpoint, in terms of the Beal reset, I don't think they've done anything necessarily egregious, but I think they're going to be hot ass. I'm going to take the under, and I think the East is legit good. And I think even teams like Detroit and Charlotte and these in Orlando, like these teams are going to be improved as well. And I think Washington's going to be the worst team, and I think they finish closer to 20 games.
So I'm gonna go over here to close this off. I really like if you were gonna buy low on Jordan Poole, pairing him with Tyus Jones, I think is actually really smart. I think that's a really nice tandem. I think if anybody has a chance to elevate Poole as a point guard, it's Tyus Jones. Not anybody, obviously. They're fucking Steph Curry. I meant like anybody attainable. And then the thing to me is when an over-under is this low, like compare this to the Spurs over-under. The Spurs over-under is 5 more. But like I think there's a much better chance that they shut down Wembanyama or Victor Wembanyama gets hurt than the Wizards shut anybody down. So like the Wizards to me are a candidate to be one of those teams that like is bad, but like randomly is winning games at the end of the season because they're still playing all the same guys. Like Kuzma just signed that big extension, or Kispert, not going to bench Kispert. All these guys who throughout the season are just kind of like mediocre, not very good, but like pretty good. Game 78, they're still going to be in there if they're healthy. And 24.5 is just such a low number. It's just not hard for me to see them winning 25, 26, 27 games.
They're the type of team that strikes me as like they could start the season well. Like they're like, oh, they're 5-4. Like, did we
Like
sleep
Utah
on the
last
Wizards?
year?
Yeah,
Right.
like, oh, did we sleep on the Wizards? And then they end up just being exactly how terrible we all thought they would be. But because you bank those wins early, it helps you push over that total. Like that's kind of how I feel about them. But yeah, I do like that total. I don't know. I might hit that actually. Hit that over there. So we'll see. All right, I'm gonna try to have Zach make a little graphic with all of our picks. We'll tweet it out, and then we can keep track and make fun of each other at the end of the season when all of us have losing records somehow. All right.
It would be good to do like, I know we've done this a couple of years. I don't think we've ever done like a revisit, but
yeah, we could. We should.
or like at least keep track for bragging rights and thousands of dollars that we've bet on this. So
we'll do that. We'll do that in like 4 separate parts, maybe. Then maybe we can squeeze it in then into a podcast format. All right, Geoff, let the people know where they can find you and plug anything you'd like to plug.
So I'm Frank Barrett, 11-9. I'm gonna start by plugging Strictly NFL. I've really loved doing that with Con. We had Shwin on today. It was a pretty awesome show. I actually asked for it to be under an hour at the start, and like we went to 90 minutes, and I didn't mind at all. Like I had to rush dinner, but it was just a ton of fun. It's always a ton of fun talking football with Con. I want to plug just like all content at the Strickland always. I hopefully have a couple articles coming out soon. I've been more lazy and I just stretch myself so thin. And then the last thing I want to plug is something I'm really excited about. Some of you may know Xavier XJ on Twitter. Me and him are starting our own kind of, I don't even know what to call it. I feel pretentious calling it like a business or like, I don't know. It's going to start with a podcast, but we're hoping it expands from there. It's called Hot Ham Theory, and it launches next. So we've created all the accounts. We have everything set up. We have a pretty fun plan for like our debut tweet, which sounds weird to say, but people understand when they see it. And I think it's really cool. And then our debut podcast is going to be the Tuesday of opening day of the season, where we will recap the Knicks off season and, project the first week. And, we're going to be we're going to put out a podcast every week. We're going to do other fun stuff related to YouTube and social media that we're excited about. And yeah, you'll see us popping up. So we appreciate any support. And I felt, I asked Shwin if I could do this on here. I felt a little weird. He's always been supportive of me. So I feel an obligation, and I want to say that like Shwin DM'd me a little bit over 2 years ago now when I had 20 followers. Like he just saw a random thread I made and was like, hey dude, this looked good. Like, is there any chance you want to do some work for us? And like the idea that like, I have the following, not that I have some massive following, but that I have any followers right now is like almost entirely because of you guys, people at Strickland. I'm not going to stop doing stuff for Strickland, like, just because I'm doing something else. I don't want anybody to think that I'm like jumping ship. I'm going to still write. I'm still going to do all the recap threads for Strickland. So I'm not really going anywhere, but I do want to say thank you to, Shwin and Stacy and everybody at Strickland, Alex, just for, helping me. I have a freaking job at Carolina HQ now because Stacy sent me a DM and was like, hey, this
that worked out. That's awesome.
Yeah, I got it. I've been writing for that. I've been writing for them for a couple months now. I try to retweet every article I write, but we've been doing all right. It's just pretty awesome
Repost.
What?
You repost.
Reacts.
Yeah. Oh, right. Yeah. Yeah. It's just pretty awesome to see, like, people you've never really even met who just like the Knicks community is pretty great for the most part, and I'm really appreciative. So yeah, that again, it's going to be called Hot Hand Theory. We have a Twitter already, so give us a follow, and hopefully we can keep doing what Strickland's doing, and that's provide engaging content that isn't bullshit like most of the media is these days. So yeah,
awesome, man. Awesome to hear, and excited to see everything you got in store. Thanks again for coming on, Stacy. Let the people know where they can find you and plug anything you'd like to plug.
Yeah, Stacy Patton 89. I'll say anything Geoff's putting out, and I'm a fan of XJ too, so definitely looking forward to that pod. But what I will plug is that a New York basketball team won a playoff series today and will be in the conference semifinals while we were doing this pod. So, and the Strickland has you covered. Gigi Spear has done a lot of great work doing recaps. I believe it's either her or Miranda doing this one, but I believe it's her. Both of them have been doing great work. So, whether you've been following or not too late. We have a real championship contender here. They're really fun to watch. And so I'll plug that. And then the other thing I'll plug is on that note, me and Matt Miranda actually did for the Believe Next pod, a pod with Gigi talking about the Liberty. It was before this series, but we talked kind of looking forward in the playoffs. If you want to catch up on the Liberty and learn a little bit more of the team from someone who knows them as well as any of us, or certainly better than anyone I know, definitely check that out as well.
Awesome. Yeah, I am. I'll just echo everything that both Geoff and Stacy have plugged. Again, echo Stacy's sentiments. Anything Geoff's part of, definitely worth your time to check out. I have nothing personally to plug other than check out Strictly NFL. Definitely give that a follow on Twitter, and check out the pod. I think it's really, really good, and I'm very satisfied with how Geoff and Con are kind of putting that together as they get comfortable doing their own thing. But yeah, other than that, hope everybody has a great week. And thank you. Shout out to our wonderful, wonderful sponsor, Bet Online, for what this 3-hour and 22-minute podcast would not be possible for.
We beat Oppenheimer. We did
beat Oppenheimer. So instead of watching Oppenheimer, watch this podcast. All right. Yeah, that is our show for today. Hope everybody has a great week, and I will see you on Friday.